Good evening. The Board of Trustees of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District is now convened in a regular meeting on Monday, October the 8th, 2012, in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center, 10,300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas, at 6 p.m. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a meeting of the public of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by Section 551.071 to 551.084 inclusive of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on CFTV Channel 16 and CFTV online on the district website. They will also be rebroadcast throughout the month on Channel 16 and available as video on demand on the website. For the tape to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. Tonight, our AVP students are from Cypress Ranch, and they are Joel Rawson, Daryl Thorman, Chase Parisher, Javon LaFleur, Kate Romlin, and the AVP advisor is Dusty Boucher. Tonight's invocation will be presented by Teresa Hull, Associate Superintendent for Government Relations, Communications, and Chief of Staff. Langham Creek High School JROTC cadets presenting the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance are Juan Rios, Kayla Herrera, Aurora Procopiu, Junior Hinojosa. Sponsors are Lieutenant Colonel Paul Marks, Master Sergeant Anthony Bullock. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Let us pray. Lord, as we come together tonight, we thank you for our board members who generously donate their service. We ask that you grant them the wisdom as they work together with the superintendent and staff to solve the many challenges our district faces. As educators and board members, parents and community supporters, we give thanks for the opportunity to be doing what is the most important work in our nation, providing for the education of the young people in our community. Help us to be passionate about our work and focused on our success so that we not only enrich the lives of our students, but enhance democracy as well. As always, we ask you to protect our men and women in the armed forces, and we pray for peace in our world. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Also in attendance tonight, we have a community leadership committee. These people are pulled in from all over the community, and they get together about once a month to learn more and more about Cy-Fair. Those in attendance, would you please stand? Craig Sharp, Leslie Martone, Stacy Anderson. Stacy? Okay. I'm sorry. Stacy, I was given the wrong last name. Okay, thank you for being here. And Stacy, I told you I was going to say something good about you. You were here Thursday and I forgot to do it. So I get your name wrong. So what the heck? I'm sorry. We'll now move on to the special recognitions portion of the agenda. The board will recognize Cypress Ridge High School student, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Jared Reese. I'm sorry?
The vision statement.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. It's a regular Covey night. We need to go back. Board member Tom Jackson will read the district's vision and mission statement for the benefit of the audience.
The vision statement for the district. The Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District will be an exemplary educational community dedicated to the highest standards of quality at all levels and in all areas of endeavor. All students, parents, community members, and district employees, respecting and valuing each other, will be committed to providing all students with an education which enables them to live successfully in an ever-changing society. The mission statement for the district. The district will provide the environment and learning opportunities for all students so that, as graduates, they will possess the qualities which will enable them to live meaningfully and successfully in society and in the workplace. The graduate will be an effective communicator, a competent problem solver, a self-directed learner, a responsible citizen, and a quality producer. This is the portrait of the Cypress-Fairbanks graduate.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We will now move on to the special recognitions portion of the agenda. The board will recognize Cypress Ridge High School student Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Jared Reese, who was selected as Outstanding Junior ROTC Cadet by the National Society Sons of the American Revolution. Honoring him tonight are also John Thompson, who is Vice President of TSSAR, and Alan Green, who is the local chapter president. The presenter is Mr. Claudio Garcia. Claudio?
Good evening, President Covey, Board of Trustees, Dr. Henry, and guests. It's an honor to present to you a student this evening that has distinguished himself from Cypress Ridge High School through our Air Force JROTC program. After being selected as one of the outstanding junior cadets in the state of Texas and honored by the Texas Society Sons of the American Revolution, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Jared Reese, I've got to get used to the new title there, was selected in July as a recipient of the Outstanding JROTC Cadet for the United States. This occurred in Phoenix, where approximately 40 states are represented by cadets. He had previously, and Jared was presented with the award and a $2,000 scholarship and a stipend. He had previously received an aggregate of $1,900 scholarship fund at the state and local level. The extended JROTC medal is awarded to an exemplary junior cadet. The cadets should be in the top 5% of their unit with respect to leadership qualities, military bearing, and the top 10% academically. They should also be the top 20% of their school academic class and exhibit leadership and bearing befitting of a good citizen within the school and community. I would also like to note that his parents were recognized and honored for their civic contributions, and Jared's mother has been a spotlight teacher at Postman Elementary as well. It's my honor and pleasure to present Lieutenant Colonel Jared Reese. Thank you very much, and thank you so much, Mr. Jackson, for all your help in this whole process. Appreciate your help. Thank you.
Jared, do you have parents, family, teachers, anybody that knows you here?
Yes, sir.
Would they stand up, please? Your parents?
Thank you for billing me out.
I'll need help later tonight, so that's okay. Congratulations, Jared. The board will recognize Felicia Hayes, Cypress Creek High School, for being named Texas Council for the Social Studies TCSS Outstanding High School Teacher for 2012. Presenter is Dr. Linda Macias.
Good evening, President Covey, board members, and Dr. Henry. It gives me great pleasure to introduce one of our great secondary social studies teachers, Felicia Hayes. Felicia, come on up. Felicia is a social studies teacher at Cypress Creek High School and also serves as a coordinator for the Human Services Career Academy. She's being recognized today for being named the Texas Council for the Social Studies Outstanding High School Teacher for 2012. Ms. Hayes was selected for this award for her outstanding teaching contribution to the advancement of social studies education within the school and for her community and active participation in local, state, and national social studies councils. Felicia was the president-elect for the Cypher Council for Social Studies this past year and led the group book drive for needy children in the district. Donna Palmeyer, the Director of Instruction for Cypress Creek High School, said the following about Felicia. Mrs. Hayes is the epitome of the 21st century social studies teacher. She is committed to social studies education as well as the welfare of the students at Cypress Creek High School. Please help me congratulate Felicia Hayes, the 2012 Texas Council for Social Studies Outstanding High School Teacher. Any family members, colleagues? I know that there are members here from the Texas Council for Social Studies. If you'll please stand to be recognized. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Hayes. Superintendent will make remarks and announcements, including the honors and achievements earned by staff and students in recent weeks. Dr. Henry?
Thank you, Mr. Covey. Just a couple of quick announcements. I would like to announce that the State Controller's Office has awarded Cypress-Fairbanks ISD a 5-star rating for academic and financial performance for the 3rd straight year. The Financial Allocation Study for Texas, or FAST, assigns every district a rating from 1 to 5 stars. 5 stars reflects the strongest academic progress and growth combined with the lowest spending. Of the 1,300 public and charter schools in the state of Texas, Cy-Fair ISD is one of only 11 of that 1,300 to receive this 5-star rating for the 3 years it's existed. Also based on the FAST study, the Comptroller's Office has awarded CFISD the Honors Circle Award for 32 of our campuses. These schools were recognized for achieving academic success through cost-effective operations. The following campuses received this award, Adam, Andre, Alt, Bang, Burks, Black, Copeland, Danish, Duryea, Farney, Gleason, Haregrove, Hamilton, Joel, Keith, Lamkin, Lee, Lowry, Matsky, McPhee, Millsap, Moore, Owens, Post, Postma, Robison, Tips, Warner, Wilburn, Wilson, and Yeager elementary schools, and Cypress Ranch High School. Congratulations to all of our talented students, teachers, and staff.
We're going to take a real short 2-minute break to congratulate the people here, and then we're back up here starting on with the meeting. If you didn't know, the Texans are playing tonight, so we're going to enjoy a short 2 minutes. That's it. I will tell you that we overlooked one person. If there's more on the CLC committee, Sally Ramsey is out there. Sally, would you stand? Thank you for serving. Is there anybody else I overlooked? Okay. Thank you. At this point, any board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any student, staff, or board member and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this time. The last weekend in September, the board attended the Texas Association of School Boards annual meeting, state meeting in Austin, and there were 5 of us that were able to attend. And so I have asked them, because there's a number of sessions that we attend during this, and I thought it would be a good idea for each one of us to share a little bit about the session that they wanted to tell you about. So we will start with that, and then the 2 board members that couldn't go, then we will, no, we're not going to start with Tom, because I saw his, it's 3 pages, so anyway. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, the 2 board members that weren't able to attend, then we'll have them, if they have something to report later, then we'll have that report. So, Mr. Ryan, you want to start?
Sure. Actually, the best session I went to was Dr. Ogletree's session. Was awesome. He did a great job. He presented. He'll talk about that. One of the sessions that Tom Jackson and I went to is a UT professor was presenting, and the topic was why our schools need digital media and design thinking. And the funniest thing about this is his technology didn't work at all. Literally, videos with no sound, but what it really, we still got the gist of what he was trying to say, because what it was talking about was with social media today, and you know how all the kids are constantly on it, is bringing that into the classroom and kind of integrating with what we're doing currently with our technology. So it was a good session.
Thanks, Don. Ms. Woodall.
Well, this wasn't exactly a seminar session, but Bob and I spent a good deal of Saturday in our delegate assembly. And this is the Texas Association of School Board. There's a representative from every district, and we all gather together and we vote on the legislative agenda moving forward. And it was really interesting. There's always a little bit of debate about certain items, but as a rule, everyone agreed with all of the resolutions, and those are available online at the TASB website. But it was really nice to see that they're truly thinking of all students moving forward and their work in the legislative agenda. So,
Thank you. Dr. Ogletree.
Thank you, Bob. As a part of my matriculation and graduation through Leadership TASB, we grouped off and had to take a project, and the project that Kim Butcher from Greenville ISD and Frank Shore from Carrollton Farmers Branch ISD and I took on was a health issue dealing with the obesity crisis that is not just in the United States but also in Texas, a very prevalent epidemic among our young people. And the title of our workshop was Let's Get Moving. and we attempted to address underachievement through two aspects, through nutrition and through exercise. And we found a number of studies that have shown that if we focus upon those two vehicles, that our children will be more focused, be much healthier, and will achieve at a higher level on the academic level. And we were quite fortunate to get into that. One of the highlights of the presentation was I was able to show a video from one of our own schools, from Rennell Elementary, who uses the Catch PE program, and to show how fun physical activity can be and how it can embrace the whole student population. So real happy to study that, and hopefully we'll get to do that workshop across the state some more.
Thanks, Dr. Hull. I'm going to go next because I know what Tom's going to report on, and that was probably one of the best sessions of the entire meeting, so I'm going to save him to the end. I attended one that was called Moving Team Forward as a Leadership Body, and it pretty much started addressing the vision and the mission statements that districts have, and you'll be amazed at how many districts don't even have a vision statement. So it was wonderful that we have one, but it also said that we need to take a look at our vision and mission statement and update it to 21st century education. And I will tell you that the board has agreed with me, and this is something that we are going to be tackling in November. And just wanted to let you know it was a great session to go to, and it was sponsored by TASB, and a great presentation, and there was a lot of I would call it sit-around input from a number of districts. So we learned a lot from that. Tom?
During this time period, I also generally have my tip of the hat section, which I will go ahead and feather into my comments. So board members, relax if you're so inclined. On September 12th, I attended an event where local police officers were honored, including our very own Officer Brooks. I would like to recognize the fact that former policeman Representative Fletcher helped to honor these law enforcement officers. So a tip of the patrol hat goes to the good representative, and also for his support of our school district. September 20th, I attended the Houston A+ speaker series to hear Nevere Kingsland on the miracle of New Orleans. I'm sure everybody has seen the HBO special on what's happening in New Orleans, as well as Chris Barbick, who's the superintendent for the Tennessee Achievement School District. A couple of my takeaways: both gentlemen were very pleased with the progress going on by the introduction of charter schools into their community. Mr. Kingsland did note that he wanted New Orleans or Houston or Memphis to be the first urban school districts in the United States with 100% charter schools. He noted that his efforts had raised the New Orleans schools from F to mediocre, and we wish both gentlemen with continued success. I should note that Mr. Barbick was assigned taking over the bottom 5% of the schools in Tennessee. Following upon the heels of that, I then drove to Austin on the evening of September 24th to hear the statewide conversation on high-stakes testing. I would like to give a tip of the hat to CLC members Karen Miller and Stacy Anderson for driving down to hear the presentation. It was a panel discussion, as well as coming all the way back. These are all volunteer hours. They were also joined by Teresa Hull and Dr. Macias, and I note that we do not pay overtime, thankfully. It was a long drive down and a long drive back. It was, in fact, a distinguished panel. It included Representative Aycock, Dr. McNeil of Rice, Dr. Valenzuela of the University of Texas at Austin. It also included Commissioner Tom Pauken from the Texas Workforce Commission. Commissioner Pauken expressed support for multiple pathways, including pathways to vocational education. There is widespread concern regarding the excessive testing going on in the state of Texas that unintended consequences could occur, including increasing the dropout rate as opposed to increasing achievement standards. I also found it very significant on these multiple pathways that very significant concerns were expressed by some of the panelists and many of the speakers at the microphone that if pathways were adopted, then students could or would be ushered into those pathways based upon ethnic or socioeconomic characteristics. This will be a topic that will be discussed in the coming springtime in the Texas legislature, and I think as a board and also as a community, it's another topic that we need to have sensitivity and awareness of as it continues to progress. I also had the opportunity to attend the VIPS General Board meeting on September 27th. A big tip of the hat to the volunteers. The meeting room over at the Berry Center was full. You actually had people standing up at the back. There were over 150 individuals there. They spent not only their entire morning, but it extended past lunchtime. So thank you very much to the volunteers of our district. The keynote speaker for the event was Chief of Police Bragg. A couple of comments that I wanted to take away. He did remind us that any of the tickets they issue, the school district does not receive the financial benefit from, unhappily. He also reminded us that those individuals that we on the board or the general public may refer to as blue shirts are in fact and should be referred to as COS or CSOs, campus security officers. And his presentation showed the transition of the police force, and I certainly appreciate the update that he gave to the parents who were there that morning. October 4th, I attended Chamber of Commerce Roundtable of approximately 20 featuring Senator Patrick, who's our newly appointed chair of the Education Committee. He applauded the district for the ability to achieve despite lower funding throughout the United States. A tip of the capital red granite goes to Senator Patrick for his ongoing support of the district through very difficult financial times and despite pressure from other groups suggesting that perhaps the district does not merit his support. I did in fact attend with everybody else the session in Austin. A brief comment, the advocacy and legislative update session I attended, they pointed out that the funding gap has in fact started to close. As evidence of that, the differential between Tomball and Cy-Fair has gone from $1,400 a student to $1,200 to $800 a student. However, they pointed out that instead of the bottom, where Cy-Fair is, being averaged up, the top is being averaged down. So I think it's a case of be careful what you wish for, because it may happen and you may not like the unintended consequences. The most significant of all of the seminars that I attended involved the speaker of Diane Radich. Diane Radich was the Deputy Secretary of Education under Bush the Elder. She also served under Clinton. She continued to serve in various educational endeavors since then. She was one of the prime architects of No Child Left Behind. She was an advocate, very strong advocate, of the carrot and apple approach. She has since reversed her position, which is very significant, based on 20 years worth of data interpretation and research. Some of her comments that she made. In New Orleans, she pointed out that 80% of the schools are now charter schools. 79% of those schools are still failing. I should point out that they also receive thousands of dollars more than we do here, as do the Tennessee schools, which she pointed out, have not achieved the results that everybody had hoped for. She also commented on the famous PISA test. That's the international test given by the French for students and school children across the United States. She pointed out that in one area our children out-test everybody else, and that's our children of poverty. Our children of poverty test the best of any nation. Unhappily, children of poverty are always out-tested and outscored by those children not in poverty. And we simply have higher percentages of children in poverty in our public schools taking that international test than other industrialized nations. She definitely challenged the carrot and stick approach. She argued that it has not shown to deliver results in public ed. And of course, it didn't work very well at Enron or Goldman either. She also looked statistically at the concept of merit pay in many different states where it was fully in effect, and she pointed out that the statistical results have shown it to be a failure. She also examined the issue of charter schools and vouchers and noted that the results obtained from those corporate reforms were not what all had hoped for. All of these are significant issues which will in fact be brought up in the springtime, and I would suggest to the board that the board consider revising what the typical board agenda is, and perhaps some of these topics should be placed on the board agenda in the near future, either starting in December or perhaps in the springtime when the legislature's in session. These are topics that we need to be informed on. So I thank the board for your time and attention, and I apologize to the general public for taking up so much of your time, but I do think all of these comments
Thanks, Tom.
did have value.
Mr. Morris, do you have anything?
Yes, I do. It's completely unrelated to what you're talking about, so.
That's fine. This is board comments.
All right. I've noticed that in the past 3 years, there's has been a political action committee has been formed for the election of trustees to this board. In looking at some of the paperwork, it seems like there are some corporations or companies that have given money to this PAC, and that money has been passed on to past trustees or present trustees, and which could be in direct violation of the law. There have been problems like this in some of the larger school districts in the state of Texas. So for that reason, I'm going to ask this district for an investigation as to the contributors to that PAC in the past 2 elections and in this one, as soon as that paperwork is in. Also, there have been out-of-state contributions made to this PAC also. So I want all that looked into, and I'm also going to forward this information and request an investigation from the Texas Ethics Commission and perhaps the Attorney General's office also. So, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Morris. Ms. Hartley?
On a different note, I wanted to say thank you to all the local businesses who constantly support our schools and our booster clubs. So often I see, come eat at Raising Cane's tonight, this money goes to the band, or come to Orange Leaf, they're supporting our group. I want to thank these and other businesses such as Spring Creek Barbecue, just to name a few. In addition, I wanted to say how I appreciate the parents' involvement tonight. It's great to see involved, passionate parents supporting the Cy-Fair students. I hope you will add your enthusiasm and passion as we look towards Austin and our state legislators and we fight for equitable funding. Your voice matters, and we'd like to hear it. Thanks.
Thank you. One final thing, I will tell you that I've been invited, or the Cy-Fair has been invited to partake in a group called Impact that is being sponsored by the Harris County Department of Education, and they're bringing in school districts from around the Houston area, and there are 12 to 15 that have agreed to get together and talk about what we can do as districts, that we can help each other, and then also how we can speak as a single voice when it comes time for the legislature. So I was very pleased to be involved in that. I will tell you that all around us are the districts that are participating. Patrons who have duly registered per policy BED local may address the board regarding matters of concern or interest to the district other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. I would like to remind the audience and the viewers that the comments of the speakers reflect their own positions or opinions. The board may not discuss or act upon any matter that is not listed under the action item portion of the agenda. Therefore, board members may not discuss the comments of the speakers. Please understand that a lack of a response from the board members does not indicate agreement or approval of the comments. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the board. Mr. Don Ryan, Secretary of the Board, will be the designated timekeeper. If you have never spoken before, if you'll come up to the podium on my right, there is a box up there that's got a red, yellow, and green light. So when you start speaking, the green light will come on. At 30 seconds before your time is up, the yellow light will come on. And when the red light comes on, we would like to ask you to summarize and complete your statement. We do have a number of people speaking tonight, so we appreciate your attention and listening to what the comments are. Our first one is Stacy Kinneker. Stacy, would you like to come forward?
It's a shame we're not held to the same standards as the board are with some of our comments. Good evening. My name is Stacy Kinneker. The following is my opinion and does not represent any community board or committee on which I serve. I am here because of the sex ed controversy. I am okay with certain elements of the curriculum and find others inappropriate at best. I'd also like to say this district I love so much could have done a better job with proactive communication on a topic we surely all knew would be controversial. But what bothers me most is not the actual back and forth of what belongs in sex ed curriculum, but the slow and steady erosion of our children's entire education caused by continued funding cuts does not draw the same level of ire, resource, and commitment to change from our community. If we are willing to fight to change the curriculum in one class based on moral grounds or parental rights, why would we be content to stand by when our children's overall education is at risk? Do you know the 82nd legislative session cut $5.3 billion from public education? Or that for the first time in our state's history, growth for new students was not funded? How about that our state continues to pass mandates down to local districts without providing the funds necessary to meet their requirements? Some of the more obvious ways these actions directly impact each child in our district is increased class size, a decrease in the actual number of days available for instruction due to increased testing, decreased transportation offering that makes it impossible for some students to get to school on certain days because of their neighborhood safety, as well as the elimination of an additional certified teacher in inclusion classroom. This impacts general and special ed. This is just the tip of the iceberg on how our children's future is being sacrificed. All of this is happening while the rainy day fund grew to a record $8.2 billion. These are facts. You can verify them on our state controller's website. In Texas, we have the opportunity to change legislation every 2 years. Our chance is coming this January with the 83rd session. And other than the usual handful of people, I do not see an energized community ready to come together to fight for a cause that will not only benefit every single child in our district, but anyone who owns property or operates a business. I don't think this really represents who we are as parents or a community. If you're here tonight or if you're watching on TV, you're involved in or care about your child's education. Let's harness this energy the sex ed controversy has created and expand it so that it covers the complete education of all of our children. If you'd like more information, drop me an email at fundcfisd@sbcglobal.net. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stacy. Christine Kalmbach, did I say that right? Okay, thank you.
I wish I was meeting you under different circumstances, but I wanted to let you know that I feel very passionate about something. I've been a member of this community for 34 years. I'm a product of Cyfair Independent School District. I went to Arnold, and I went to Cyfair High School and graduated class of '85. Bobcat fight never dies. I wanted to come before you because I am very opposed to the school district implementing this particular curriculum, It's Your Game. Due to the inappropriateness of language in the curriculum that does not meet Cyfair ISD student standards of conduct. This is a level 3 offense of profanity or vulgar language or making obscene gestures. There is inappropriate information in the video and inappropriate skits in the curriculum. They also have inappropriateness of students' dress, suggestive and gang-like dress, and that's prohibited by being in a gang-free zone in the schools. Violation of established dress code. This is not what Cyfair condones or tolerates. I'm very shocked that this program was chosen for our students. A lack of communication and options by the school district. Information about this program could have been sent home in the spring to alert parents to the curriculum change, along with meetings to view it and the videos in advance. Nothing was sent home to parents until the September 2012 meetings. Many parents weren't able to attend due to the conflicts on September 10th or 18th, including myself. Nothing in the booklet sent home with the new curriculum indicated that this was a distinct change from the past. Parents were also not given a full opt-out option of this curriculum. Why? This has not been the case in the past with Cyfair. Cyfair has been very transparent in the past with the information that's been presented to the families and students of this district. And let me reference the Student Health Advisory Council minutes from February 22nd. Parents are notified when the unit will begin and when they may attend the parent information. At the information meeting, parents will review the videos in the curriculum taught during the unit. They were not. We were given information in a PowerPoint presentation, but their videos and the curriculum were not available for review with the parents at those meetings. Also, Cyfair in their code and their handbook have 4 options that their child will receive the information. Parents may allow the students to remain in the science class and study the reproductive unit. 2, may teach unit objectives at home, and the student will be held accountable for the meeting objectives. And they may be excused from a particular topic, or they may be given an alternative unit to study on their own. We have not been given an alternative unit to study on our own. We were told we would have to teach this curriculum on our own to our students, and we're opposed to it. Ms. Hill said in her own words, "This challenge will be to find something that is not way beyond the scope of middle school students' grasp." She said the goals will be written and expects the entire process to take about 2 years. Ms. Hill said the unit is emotionally impactful and cannot be put together in a short period of time. Why is this being forced on us after merely 6 months?
Thank you.
I would just like to give you a handout that I have. I'm not one to come and complain and not give options. There's another program that I found called Choosing the Best that has a sex ed curriculum for 6th through 12th grade for every grade, which I think it's that important since our district is facing such tough issues that they would have an option where students were educated every year.
Next speaker is David M. Wilson.
President Covey, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Henry, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is David Wilson. I represent the I represent the Cypress, Texas Tea Party. I wanted to speak to you about one item that's on the agenda tonight, and it's regarding you're going to be awarding a contract for demographic services. I was at the meeting of the whole on Thursday, and there was no discussion about this item. As I got more information about it, I found out there that the vendor that is being recommended that you approve is Population Survey Analysts, and they submitted a bid price of $234,620. They were given an evaluation score of 1 to 100, each one of the bidders, and there were 8 bidders there. And this particular Population Survey Analysts were given an evaluation score of 79. The next, and again, that their bid was $234,620. The next highest bid was only $92,000. The second recommended bidder was at $91,328 to John Richter. They had an evaluation score of 78, which was only 1 point less than the recommended bidder. But as you can see, Their bid was $140,000 less than the one that's being recommended for you to approve tonight. I want to thank Marty Edwards. He took time out of his day today to speak to me about this particular contract, and he mentioned the differences between the bids and that all the services the recommended bidder was able to supply. And really what you need here is transparency. When you put this forward, and this goes in the record like this, there's nothing to explain what all this is. There was no questions asked at the meeting last Thursday, and if you just let this go on through, it looks like over $140,000 is being frivolously wasted. And I know it's something different than that. So what I recommend you do is send that back and get bids that are equitable, explain the differences. If you want more services from one vendor than another can provide, rather than have it reflected in an evaluation score, get everyone to bid on the same project and the same thing. But I thank you for your time.
Dr. Francis Smith.
Good evening, President Covey, board members, and Dr. Henry. Cyfair TSTA members are looking ahead and wondering what sorts of catastrophic bills might be submitted and even passed during the next Texas legislative session, let alone what the lame duck session of Congress might produce. The anti-public school teacher mode is still intact. The anti-union position is still continuing. Vouchers continue to threaten our public schools. And one of the continuing horror stories for teachers is merit pay. There is nothing meritorious about it. Equating a teacher's salary increases with student scores is not at all scientific and does not fairly evaluate a teacher's skills to any degree. Our student products are all different. Unlike the business world, we all begin at different places with our students and we end differently. As long as we do not pre-test our students in the fall with a test, which is another version of what we use in the spring, we are testing apples and oranges. There are no pre-tests for tax, and especially not for EOC. Benchmarks don't count as they are other tests. Our classes are different each year. It is rare for us to have the same students more than once. Students, due to different personalities, bond with some teachers better than others. What happens when the mix just does not blend well? Most teachers can work to overcome those discrepancies, but believe me, there are some classes that do not work. And the only solution is to intervene with schedule changes, which always take time, if they even happen. One could not get good scores with this situation. There are some teachers in each school who do not teach the subjects which are tested. Are they any less important than the rest? Of course not. Everyone plays an important part. But we would be remiss if we were to say that we would not care if any extra pay would depend totally on other teachers' success or lack of it. Teachers do not choose the students they teach. The classes based on past achievement or the lack of it are given to the teachers, usually without any discussion, and some do get lower achieving students more often than others. While that is not a big issue normally, if pay were dependent upon such achievement, there would be an obvious disconnect here. If there were merit pay and classes were not rotated among teachers evenly and fairly, those who would bear the brunt of this unfairness could hardly be expected to support it. In addition, we all know that student progress is quite dependent upon our students' parents and the support they provide for their children. So to devise a pay system upon classification of so-called teacher progress, which does not and cannot make equal comparisons, is misguided at best. We hope Cyfair continues to ignore this trend. Thank you.
Next speaker is Diedrich T. Wilmer. Did I say that right? Is Diedrich right? Okay.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank Superintendent Henry, President Covey, and school board members. The reason my existence tonight is to represent as a parent, homeowner, business leader, and taxpayer. When I relocated here to Houston back in 2002, I asked everyone around, where can I live that believes in an area that believes in education? The consensus was Cyfair. As a young man with a one-year-old child at the time, I was anticipating not a perfect school or a system, but a district that believes in world-class education and educators that embrace diversity, both ethnicity and economics if they're from Northwest Houston or from Black Horse Ranch. Educators and administrators has to embrace this as well if they reside in any school, regardless if they're Title I or not. This will prepare my child for higher education in our ever-competitive global workforce. Now, it's 2012 and 10 years later, I'm very disappointed in the level of education, which really concerns me on the middle school level, which some schools prepare for what I said before and others are not. When the school district made a decision to integrate level 1 classes with traditional students, I have major concerns. How do you prepare your child to take AP courses in high school if you're not preparing them in middle school by not having pre-AP courses? My board members today, please ask yourself this question. When I was watching a program yesterday morning on MSNBC that was talking about the current Supreme Court case, Fisher versus Texas, and I said to myself, I want my child to be admitted to the University of Texas regardless of a 10% rule, but based on the merit of his overall achievements. This starts while now he's in 6th grade. It's about preparation for high school, and high school is a preparation for higher education. This will allow my child to be on the same playing field regardless of race. My family consists of educators, administrators, chancellor of a major university. When you leave this evening on your way home, board members, please keep in mind that there's a lot of parents out here every single day that work hard to make sure, and day out, to make sure their kids are challenged so they can compete for careers, not jobs. Please encourage Mary Jaloski and Shot Shepard to reconsider what's perceived a budget crunch and opportunity, but allow kids who are reading at a level beyond their grade level. I have a young boy that I know that whom exceed expectations in math, a kid who have a dream of being a scientist, a ecologist, and physician, a young girl who wants to be ambassador to the UN because she loves social studies. We focus so much on separating our athletes by having an A and B team, while we can't do the same in our classrooms. I conclude tonight, we have to keep focusing our commitment to our children. It doesn't matter if you have a child or not in these schools, but it's a commitment as the children of God to protect all children, to maintain the Southfield portrait. Thank you. May the Lord bless you all. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mindy Lucas.
Thank you for your time. I'm here to speak about some of my topics of concern about the new sex ed program, It's Your Game. My name is Mindy Lucas. I'm a Fairfield resident. I'm a registered nurse and a mom of 3. I have a daughter that's also a Bobcat Fight Never Dies graduate 2007. I have a son that's a junior at Cy Ranch High School and a daughter who's my youngest that's a 7th grader at Salyards. I'm an everyday mom in the trenches with you, serving our schools and just trying to make some memories with my kids. My youngest is the last of 3 that I will escort through these exciting discovery years of growing up. Education is powerful. Just as dangerous as undereducating our kids, though, is the damage that we do when we give them too much information too soon. This program is packed with content that is really too mature in concept for the average 12-year-old. They just really don't possess the ability to disseminate it appropriately. The various videos, situational dramas in this program show vignettes that involve older teens, not 12 and 13-year-olds. It's just too much too soon. The content of the program reaches far beyond anatomy and physiology. It targets a very small percentage of middle school kids who have environmental or socioeconomic peripheries that place them in a group that needs more in-depth information. Biology is a pure science. Urban slang and an edgy, hip fashion has no place in an academic classroom. This is one of the most sensitive and controversial topics that our kids will ever be taught as an elementary or a secondary student in Cy-Fair schools. I really don't want my daughter associating the miraculous gift of a sexual relationship with terms like hooking up or getting it on. And these are used over and over in this program, and I've watched almost all of it. Let's teach them this age-old concept without giving it an inner-city slang that really makes it take on a degraded form. As a Bachelor of Science prepared registered nurse, I have never remembered being taught on the collegiate level about controversial topics like alternative types of sexual acts involving other non-standard body openings, and those are covered in It's Your Game. I do not think that the situational dramas should be reenacted in a formal classroom with situations dealing with the issue of sex. There's never been a time that you had a problem getting a 12-year-old's attention when you mentioned sex, and I don't think it's going to be a problem this time. Some kids are there, they're willing to talk about it, some aren't, and this is forcing them to take on something that I don't think they are really, from a growth and developmental perspective, able to handle. The post-program statistics that were given to parents at the overview meetings didn't demonstrate that the students from all socioeconomic demographics had been captured, and I quote the statistician, and I'm closing. 1,500 HISD students, mostly Black and Hispanic, were sampled, and it doesn't give an accurate snapshot of all Cy-Fair middle schools. If we're teaching this to target an at-risk population, which is about 5%, what are you going to do with those students that you over-inform? How are you going to handle the negative repercussions that come from that? The past program was outdated, but this one is not the right answer. Let's try again.
Next speaker is Don Tamburello.
Hello. This is actually the first time I've ever done something like this, so bear with me. But the previous speaker did an awesome job and said a lot of the same things that I was getting prepared to say. But let me add to it that I have also lived in the school district and had 3 children. 2 are in their 20s and have graduated from Cy-Fair high schools. And I have a daughter who is in 5th grade and will be in the 7th grade program in 2 years, and she'll be 12 years old. She will have turned 12 a month before she starts 7th grade. And when I found out about this program, which was just Saturday, 2 days ago, and I am speaking as a parent, and I'm not representing the school district, but I am a teacher in the school district. And I have tried since Saturday to find out as much information as I could. And I'm going to be very blunt, because this is how it was told to me on Saturday. And then I started doing my research and talking to people. And if it bothers you to hear the terms oral sex and anal sex, it bothers me too. And I don't want my 12-year-old to be exposed to that in school in a co-ed environment. And I can assure you that the majority of parents and educators, teachers that are in the school district are not aware of this terminology and this overexposure to sexuality in this way that our 12 and 13-year-olds are going to be exposed to in the classroom. I just totally object to that. Let's see. I have heard that there was an opt-out of the program where you would keep your children out of the program. I've talked to several people that say it should be more of an opt-in, but I really personally think that there's better choices out there. And the parents that I've talked to that did attend the meeting said that this information about oral sex, anal sex, role-playing was not shown to the parents. So they have not been given a true picture of what this sex ed class is like and what our children are going to be, or actually have already started to watch. And I know people that are keeping their children home from school to not have to see this and not be exposed to it. Of course, those of us that are trying to protect our children and their youth are also going to have other children that are going to be telling them about it in the same junior high environment. Thank you.
Next speaker is Billy Dixon.
My name is Billy Dixon, and I'm a parent of a middle school student in CFISD. And my objections to It's Your Game risk reduction program are twofold. One is common sense and one is the law. I am an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Texas, so I'll talk about that in a minute. Excuse me. But from a common sense perspective, the curriculum asks the students, which are 12-year-olds, which even the statistics in the program itself say that less than 10% have had any sort of sexual activity or contact by the age of 12. It asks the other 90% to define what their own sexual boundaries are. So the students themselves, without any guidance morally from the teachers, because we live in a godless, secular society, so the teachers can't tell them that this is right or this is wrong, but they're going to ask them to define as students what is your own sexual boundaries. So they're going to teach them first about every one of the sexual activities that the former speaker just talked about, and then the students are supposed to define for themselves, without any moral guidance, what their own sexual boundaries are. And then after that, the students are going to be asked to role play with other students. So let me just set the picture for you. You've got 12-year-old boys and 12-year-old girls that have just been taught every form of sexual activity possible. They have written down or defined for themselves what their own boundaries are. And then they're going to sit in the classroom together and talk to each other about, well, do you want to do this and do you want to do that? I mean, what are we creating here? Some sort of environment for hooking up at school? I mean, this is ridiculous. You're promoting the activity. You're not helping the students. So, briefly, I do want to go over the law. Texas Education Code 28.004 subsection E specifically tells the school board what is an allowed sex ed curriculum program. I'm going to read a couple of the subsections that you're violating. The law is any course materials and instructions relating to human sexuality must present abstinence from sexual activity as the preferred choice of behavior in relationship to all sexual activity for unmarried persons of school age. Number 2, devote more attention to abstinence from sexual activity than any other behavior. Okay, this program does none of that. I've seen the videos. They're teaching kids who want to hook up, how to use condoms, how to use birth control, et cetera, et cetera. There's just no abstinence teaching in this program.
Next speaker, and I may get this name wrong, is Matey Weitzman. How close was I? What's your first name? Maite. Thank you.
Maite.
And thank you all for being here. Thank you for your time volunteering. I'm sure much of this that you're hearing is news to you, because unless you're a parent who has grave concerns over their child, you wouldn't spend 9 hours looking at these videos and looking at this information. And I am sure that's the case with the board that decided on this. We just didn't have the time. It's kind of like other things in law. But we did a key search. I know you don't want to break the law, and there's only abstinence mentioned twice when they did it in the manual of the information. I was in the lobby and I wanted to talk to you about some of the statistics about abstinence education, that there's more, it's better, and they have recent reports that have shown that it really does abstain children from sex more so than these safer sex programs. I wanted to tell you that there is links to the people who developed this program to Planned Parenthood, even though they categorically deny it. We don't want, as a school district, I don't want my school district being involved in something so controversial. And I just wanted to tell you, we were in the lobby, and as parents were walking in, I'm looking at them going, is she for or is she against? And I hated that feeling,
because we're all for the kids. We're all here for the kids. We don't want it. Who wants their 12-year-old to learn something like oral sex and to have that in their heads? So, I'm crushed that I had that feeling in my head when I was walking there and I was trying to make out who was who. And as everyone walks up, you kind of have that same gesture. You're all here for the same reasons. It's our kids. And I understand now there's bigger issues, there's funding, there's legislature, but this program is not for them. They deserve better. We deserve to give them something better. They're 12, they're 13, down the road. We as parents need to be involved and teach them this. But I respect that you are here. I thank the parents that are here, and I really pray that you guys can pull this, because it shouldn't be, it's too late. A photograph is an image that lasts in your mind. I watch those videos and I can't get brainy guy out of my head. He's a casual guy who picks up, hooks up, and has sex. Since my children were tiny, I have taught them sex is a gift from God for marriage. You, the educators, the authority, are putting them in my classroom where they obey you day in, day out. And then you put a video in front of them that says, contradicts everything I've taught them, that it's okay. And if you go for it, these are the ways that you protect yourself. This program isn't for our kids, and it's not for our school district. Thank you.
Last speaker tonight is Kevin Brewer.
Mr. President, board members, Dr. Henry, thank you for the time this evening. I would tell you I come up here with concerns. I did not come with prepared remarks tonight, so I will not be near as articulate or eloquent as some of the previous speakers. But I do come here tonight as a concerned parent, and I'm not going to reiterate all the things that some of the previous speakers said about the It's Your Game program. I would implore any of you who have not taken the time to watch these videos and to review this content to please do so. I was at this meeting in this very room on September 8th to a packed house, September 18th. And the vast majority of those people in the room who had taken the time to review the content were very opposed to it. But it was being presented to us and told, this is not up for debate, it is not up for change. We're just here to give you some information and you can opt out. As one of the parents said earlier, I can't opt my kids out of the lunchroom, I can't opt them out of the hallways, I can't opt them out of the bus ride. When the state and the district puts that information in the classroom, when they put those graphics in the classroom, you have put it in every child's mind, whether I opt my kids out or not. You have taken my ability as a parent to raise my children away. Now, I'm not going to argue that there's no place for sex education, because I believe there is. Unfortunately, too many parents have given up their responsibility. But there's a better way to do it than what this program does. The very statistics to support this program, and by the way, I reviewed the presentation that was given to the SHAC in February, and I sat through the presentation given this night, and it does not go near into the details. It talks about the problem we have and how this program is the saving grace. It does not get into the details of this program. Yes, we can all agree there's a problem, but there are many different views to how we solve it, and this is not the answer. The program goes too far, and I want to protect my kids from it. I'm not going to argue that there's no place for sex ed, because there is, but let's do it a better way. Let me see, I'm watching my timer. Any other points I want to make? So I know I'm going to forget. I know tonight I'm going to go home and think of all the things. Man, you had the opportunity. What didn't you say? The one analogy I'll tell you that I use with people is this. I said it's just like mathematics. We don't teach our kids calculus in 12th grade. We teach them building blocks. And in 8th grade, we teach them more. And in 9th grade, we teach them more. We teach them what is age appropriate. And teaching our kids, and I hate to say it tonight because there are children in the room tonight, but teaching them about anal sex and the definition of it in 7th grade is not the right answer. So I would ask you again, if there is anything that can be done at this point, We're going to opt our kids out of those offensive sections. But if there's anything that this board can do, because I have 4 children, 2 in 7th grade and 2 more coming up, I would please ask that you take that under consideration. Thank you.
With the board's permission, I would like to rearrange the agenda and address item 9A. 9A, the administration will provide an oral report on the district's 7th and 8th grade human reproduction unit. Presenters are Linda Macias, Mary Jadlowski, and I'm afraid Deborah Hill could not be here because her father's quite ill.
Good evening again.
The addendum.
President Covey and board members and Dr. Henry, thank you for the opportunity to provide a reprise of the middle school human reproductive unit and program that is being used here in Cy-Fair. As you know, the name of the program is called It's Your Game, Keep It Real. And I wanted to provide you with the areas that I hope to provide answers for you or provide information for you again. So why are we teaching this content in the middle school? How was the It's Your Game, Keep It Real program selected? And how was the program funded? How is the program organized? And how does a parent opt in for their child to participate in the program? So by the end of this revisit of this material, these answers will again be provided for you, a recap of this information. So why 7th grade? Well, at 7th grade, we are required to teach state standards that include the anatomy and physiology that make up the female and the male reproductive system. So you will see here with the standards, they talk about reproductive, they talk about the endocrine system, the organ systems, and the sexual reproduction. So that's why we provided here in 7th grade, so that we can cover the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills that the state has set for us. In addition to the science standards, the science text, we also have health standards that we are responsible for providing for our 7th and 8th grade students. And I'm not going to read all of these for you to you, but I do want you to just make note of the highlighted or the underlying areas. The standards talk about growth patterns among adolescents, the onset of puberty. It talks about the endocrine system on growth and development, the changes in males and females, the compare and contrast of that. It talks about examining the physical and emotional development during adolescence. It talks about diseases and behavioral factors that contribute to those diseases. And it talks about risk factors associated, again, with communicable and non-communicable diseases. So these are some of the standards. In addition to those standards, we also have standards that we are to provide that talk about HIV infection and sexually transmitted diseases. It does talk about, most definitely, about the importance of abstinence from sexual activity and that be the preferred choice and also behavior. It talks about discussing abstinence from sexual activity as the only method that is 100% effective in preventing pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. And it also talks about the text related to risk of avoidance, peer pressure, and refusal skills, and how to cope with that type of peer pressure. Per the Texas Education Agency, the School Health Advisory Committee makes recommendations to the district, to the board actually, on coordinated school programs and its impact on student health and learning, including recommending a human reproductive health program for our 7th and 8th grade students. The council met for months reviewing different options, and they determined that they wanted a program that was evidence-based, meaning that it was based on research, a program that would change behaviors and delay sexual activity among middle school children. The data regarding this program indicates that students who participate in the program had a 1.5 times greater odds of delaying sexual initiation by 9th grade. And these students who were sexually active had reduced odds of engaging in frequent sex, and also had a 1.5 times greater odds of using condoms if they were sexually active. So this is some of the research regarding the program. Additionally, the law does provide guidance for the LSHAC, and the guidance is emphasizing an abstinence program and making sure that everyone is clear that abstinence is the only method that's 100% effective in preventing pregnancies and other diseases. It does say that to teach contraception and condoms use in terms of typical use rates and such instruction if it's included in the content. And it's very clear that a school district may not distribute condoms in connection with instruction relating to human sexuality. So we may not distribute any condoms at all. The LSHAC committee includes parents and community members. Most meetings of the LSHAC have between 20 and 30 members in attendance. At the time that the LSHAC decided to recommend this program, there were 26 members at the meeting. 25 of the members voted for the program, and 1 voted against the program. In addition, before the LSHAC met to vote on a program, parents were invited to come to a meeting so they could view and see this program. 60.
I'm sorry, she's making a presentation.
Yeah.
Please.
So parents were invited to come from the different schools. 60 parents came to this program. And of these 60 parents that came after they viewed the program, 87% felt very comfortable with the program. 5% felt comfortable. 5% were comfortable with an opt-out of some of the lessons, and 1.7% were very uncomfortable, and 1.7% were undecided. So you had the LSHAC committee who made a recommendation, and then you also had these parents that were invited to come and who also were able to view and give their input regarding the program. How is the program funded? The development of the It's Your Game program and the effectiveness study was funded by the National Institute of Mental Health, and the funding was there from 2002 to 2007. The developers of this program were all UT Health faculty. And in visiting with the UT University of Texas Prevention and Research Center, we were informed that Planned Parenthood played absolutely no role in the development of this program. A subsequent study was funded by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention from 2006 to 2007. This study tested the effectiveness of the It's Your Game program, Abstinence Until Marriage version, as well as the original It's Your Game program. Again, the developers of this version of the program were all UT Health faculty, and again, in discussions with the University of Texas Prevention and Research Center, Planned Parenthood played no role in developing this version or in the study of this program. In June, we came to you, the board, with this program and for a vote on the program. I would like to share, though, that previously, the program that we had previously to this, we had it for about 20 years, and the program was taught in its entirety in 7th grade. And it was taught during the second 6 weeks of the school year, and it included the use of contraceptions. In fact, the language that is in this program was also found in the previous program, as well as the different types of sexual activity were also found in the previous program. When we came to the board, the LSHAC came to ask you if you would vote on dividing the program up for a better way of saying it, meaning that they wanted to be able to provide part of the program in 7th grade and part of it in 8th grade. Remember, previously it was all provided in 7th grade, so 7th graders got the entire program previous to this year. But they came to you and they asked if we could divide the program into 7th grade and 8th grade so that we would have a more age-appropriate program for both levels. And you agree, and you voted for that. And in fact, the 8th grade part of the curriculum is not being implemented this year. It will not be implemented until next school year. Because remember that the 7th graders this last year got the entire program. They're now 8th graders. So the 8th grader, the kids who will be 8th graders next year, that will be the first time that they actually see the program, not this year's 8th graders. They will not be participating in the program. So let's look a little bit at the actual program. It's your game. And what lies behind it. Game to the program refers to life. And remember, these are middle school students, so they're trying to make it appropriate, age appropriate for them. Real means telling it like it is, being respectful, being responsible, doing the right thing, being yourself, being healthy, and being happy. And then it talks about how do you keep your game real, respecting yourself, respecting others, and playing by your rules. The program talks a lot about your rules and making decisions that are appropriate for you. The general topics that are covered in this program are friendships, setting limits, identifying risky situations, using refusal schools to get out of risky situations, puberty and consequences of sex. And there is role-playing that occurs in this program. Most of the role-playing has to do with using refusal skills to get out of risky situations. So role-playing about how would I get out of a situation that I'm not feeling comfortable with. The material that will be on the science test will actually be through day 8, lesson 6. It's not the entire program that's actually offered. The curriculum has for both the 7th and 8th grade curriculum. Remember, 8th grade is not till next year. Each has 12 lessons for each grade level. And in the lessons, there are classroom lessons, role-playing and discussion. There is journaling. There's individualized computer-based based component. And during this the individual computerized based component is when you will find the parts of the curriculum that are more sensitive, that kids might be even a little bit more embarrassed about. This is where you will find it in the individualized computer component. And then there's also selected activities tailored by gender and sexual experiences. For example, the system will ask the student whether they plan to have sex. So if it says no, they go on one track. Whether they're thinking about having sex, if they say yes, it goes on one track. Or whether they are having sex and it goes on a different track.
Hold on just a minute, Dr. Macias. We were very considerate of y'all when you got up and talked. I would appreciate your consideration for Dr. Macias as she's presenting, please.
So students will not see the entire curriculum. It is based on whatever answer they have provided. But as I was saying, the material that will actually be on the science test will actually go through day 8, lesson 6. And this includes the human reproductive system, the anatomy and the physiology of the male and the female reproductive systems. Just to kind of show you the scope and sequence, this is actually level to the 8th grade curriculum. And again, This will not be shown until, or will not be used until the 2013-2014 school year. We will not have a program for 8th graders this year because they received the entire program last year as 7th graders. But you can again see that there's classroom components to it, there's computer components to it as well. The last unit of the 8th grade science program, which again is 2013 and 14, does reinforce and reviews everything related to identifying personal boundaries and rules. And it does give more information relative to the pros and cons of different contraceptive devices. And it does give information on the correct use of a condom. That is provided during the 8th grade year, the last 2 weeks of the school year. But again, we do not have a program that will be used this year for 8th graders, not until the 2013 and 14 school year. The program has actually been transparent to our parents. Our parents can go on the website and they can see every single lesson. They can see the teacher component and they can see the student component. Every single lesson, it is very transparent for parents to see. We did provide written notice to our parents of each student who would receive the human sexuality instruction, which included a summary of the content, a statement of the parent's right to review the curriculum material, a statement of the parent's right to remove their students from class or any part of the unit. And then parents are also invited to come and participate in the LSHAC. The LSHAC continues to meet. All parents are invited to come to the LSHAC and to be able to provide their input and help make decisions for future programs. So parents are able again to access the entire program online. And the next LSHAC meeting is on November 20th. The next LSHAC meeting is on November 20th, and parents are invited to come and share their information. This program is an opt-in program. This is a permission slip. Parents have to opt in. A student must bring a permission slip to be able to participate in the program. Parents have to opt in to participate in the entire program. Parents have to opt in to participate in only certain lessons. Parents have to opt in for their students to not participate in the program. No child will be allowed to participate unless one of these forms is completed and parents have opted in to one of the sections there. And finally, we have been asked if Cy-Fair is the only school district that is using this program. It is not. These are the school districts that are actually they've been using the program. You can see that there are several that are in and around the Houston area. And finally, I would like to just share with you, board, that we have a question and answer document on the district website, and you can go to curriculum and instruction, departments, and science, and you will see the question and answer document regarding this program. Thank you. I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Dr. Macias. Board members?
Ready.
Mr. Morris?
According to your information here, we voted on this in June, July?
In June, Mr. Morris.
Okay. Did y'all have a video at that time?
We did not have a video for you. We had an oral presentation for you.
Why?
Why?
Why didn't you bring us a video?
Well, we didn't have a video. One of the reasons would be time. However, you were provided with the information on how you could access the videos.
This doesn't say anything about a video.
I'm sorry, what
Maybe you
doesn't
could bring
say?
the video now and let us see it so then we could vote it down.
Well, Mr. Morris, again, the information for how you can access the video, I can certainly provide that for you, where you can access the entire video, because it takes a while to go through all the different videos.
That's fine. We got time. If you bring the video, we all need to look at it.
Mr. Morris, what I might remind you is that the board is a governance board, and what is presented to us are the day-to-day runnings of this district. So if you want to see that, you can certainly see it. I personally want to see it, but I don't think demanding it to come to the board meeting is what we need to do. So if you want to, you and I can certainly see it.
You know, you folks, man, if it don't smell right, you automatically think it's a demand. I didn't demand anything. I was asking them to bring it to the board.
You're asking them, but we don't do that at the board meeting. We don't have them bring the science curriculum. We don't have them come here and explain math to us.
See all these people out here, if they got a problem with it, you should have a
that.
problem with it.
I know, but if you want to view it, and I'll be glad to view it with you because I'd like to view it myself. We'll be glad to sit down and view it.
When can we just vote
sorry.
this stuff down? When can we just vote it out and that's it? Do something else.
Well, number one, it's not posted on the agenda to vote.
Okay, well, we'll get them to post it, and maybe next month we can vote it out. Then everybody will be happy.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Excuse me, you all, this is a meeting in the public. It's not a meeting of the public. And so time for citizen participation has passed, and so audience members are not participants in the meeting. And I just would respectfully request that you watch and observe the public meeting. And if it continues, you may be required to leave if it becomes disruptive. I do appreciate
Mr. Morris, when we did the presentation for the board, we shared with you the link to be able to go to the websites and be able to view the video, be able to view the entire program just as our parents are able to view.
Is there a way that we can delay this being implemented until we look at the video?
Well,
Is it possible?
That's what all.
I'm sorry, we've already had, when was the link given to us?
Well, in June, when we
June.
presented to you.
So we've already had several months to look at it.
Did you look at it?
Yes, I did.
Did you like it?
Well, you know, I think I represent a lot of older people who wish that we didn't live in the day and age where it was necessary for us to be required to provide this curriculum. Did I like it is really not germane. Are we fulfilling our obligation to the students? Yes, I think we are.
At that age, I beg to disagree with you.
Well, and one thing I was going to ask Linda about, if I might ask a question just to go over, I heard you say that the information that I think most people are finding offensive is really given to the students the last 2 weeks of their 8th grade, right before they go into high school?
The majority of that information is in the 8th grade curriculum, and it's given to them the last 2 weeks of their 8th grade school year, and it is not going to be used this year.
Okay. And so the information, if someone opts out of it in the 7th grade this year, next year when that information is presented, will they be able to view that, or does the opt-in or opt-out
Next year,
for both years?
Next year in 8th grade, they will be opting into the 8th grade curriculum.
Okay. And I'm assuming we felt a need to replace our original curriculum that we were using. Do you have any information about the pregnancy rates that we have in our schools, not per school, just within the district at this time? I didn't ask for this ahead of time. I'm sorry, Linda.
I do not have that information with me, Ms. Woodall. I can certainly get it and send it to you. But do we have pregnant teens in this district? Do we have pregnant middle schoolers in this district? Yes, we do.
We have pregnant middle schoolers. Mm-hmm. And that's not counting STDs.
That's correct.
All right. All right, let me see. And so the meeting that the parents who were not on the committee, when they came and they viewed all of the information, you said 87% of them felt very comfortable with this?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
And only 1.7% were uncomfortable with this?
These were the 60 parents that came to learn about the program and view the program. And we're also giving the links to be able to go and see. The links have been out there to be able to see the entire program. And I think the difference with the program we had before and this program is that this one is completely transparent. Everything is out there. Technology has it out there. Everything is out there. The other one was not set up like that.
How were the parents notified that this program was going to be changed and that it was available for them to view?
There was an email sent out to parents via the school regarding that meeting where we had the 60 parents.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time, and then the LSHAC has been worked on this most of this past year. And the LSHAC, again, parents are invited, representative is invited from every single school to come.
Okay, and so the LSHAC, they started in 2011.
Mm-hmm. They
working
started
on this.
They started last year, early in the fall last year is when they started looking at a different program and looking at different things. And they were really looking for an evidence-based program. They wanted something that had some type of research behind it.
All right. And so if I was the parent of a 7th grader, I would have learned of this then.
They would have they would have learned about it if they received the email to come to the parent meeting. That one was in February, I believe. This last February.
February of 2011.
Yes.
Okay. No, February
12.
Yes, 2012.
2012.
Okay. Okay, and this was on the agenda in June?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so they felt strongly that it was important to decide to split the program up. So
Yes, they wanted it to be more age appropriate for the kids instead of all of it being placed in 7th grade, including contraceptives. They wanted to make sure and split that up and put more of that into the 8th grade.
Okay. I hate to be graphic, but I have to ask this question because we've heard lots about putting a condom on a piece of fruit. When is that image shown?
In 8th grade. But it's not a piece of fruit, but it's in 8th grade.
Okay.
The last 2 weeks of the school year in 8th grade.
Okay, right before they're going into high school with the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders.
That is correct.
Which is, okay. Okay, I think you've taken care of my issues that I had, Linda. Thank you very much.
Dr. Ogletree?
Macias.
Linda, thank you for the presentation. One of the things I wanted to ask you, this group of 26 who reviewed this program, did they watch all 8 to 9 hours of the video before they approved this program?
They were given the opportunity to watch the video, Dr. Ogletree. The presentations were done, and then they were sent away with the information and with the links to the video, and then they came back and they met again, I believe 2 months later, before they actually voted. And the committee the committee that actually voted is made up of parents, mostly parents, because that's what the SHAC has been made up. There's a nurse also that served on the committee along with our district nurse.
Was there any inquiry as to whether those who serve actually watched the video? I'm sure if we...
Okay, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you, ma'am,
I'm sorry, you cannot speak out. So this is just a meeting of the board.
Because I'm...
Last warning.
Because I'm thinking of us at the board, we saw the presentation and we didn't go watch the videos except for Lada. So was there any inquiry as to whether they had watched the videos?
Dr. Orr, I was not at that meeting,
Okay.
So I cannot tell you that, but what I do know is that they were provided with information. They were shown some of the program, and then they were given the link so that they could go home and watch the information, come back, regroup together, and be able to provide an informed decision about the program.
The 60 parents who then later on reviewed the program, who answered the email, did they watch the videos?
They were also given the same opportunity.
Same situation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There was a statement made earlier by one of the speakers that suggested that this program was really geared toward inner city poor Black and Hispanic children, and it shouldn't be for these children out here in Cy-Fair. Is there anything in this program that is racially geared or directed or socioeconomically geared for those type of kids rather than our kids out here?
The big study that was done, Dr. O, was one out of HISD. So there is a lot of diversity, as you know, in HISD. However, we can't forget that there's a lot of diversity in our district as well, almost 50% free and reduced lunch, and we are a minority-majority district now as well. So the study encompassed all different kids, but it was done in HISD.
So the filming, the language, the videos are all from HISD?
No, sir, not the videos. The study that was done on the effectiveness of the program.
Was from HISD?
It was done. The group that was researched was in HISD.
Okay. Were there any other studies from any other district that used this program other than HISD?
There were other studies. This is the one that I'm familiar with.
Okay. And to your knowledge, were any of these other studies done for a district that was not heavily populated with inner city, poor Black and Hispanic children?
I do not know the answer to that. I do know that some of the other programs that were looked at were heavily geared towards just Hispanics. And so that was one reason why the committee chose not to look at that. They wanted to see a little more diversity than just Hispanics.
Is there any potential in this program, since there is role play, is there any potential in this program for there to be role play when it comes to oral sex or anal sex?
No, sir, there is not.
Who controls what the role play will be in this program?
Well, the teacher does, and the role play is on specific topics. As I said, most of the role play has to do with risk type factors, how you would handle being put in uncomfortable situations, and how you would handle yourself to be able to get out of those uncomfortable situations. But the teacher is there when the role play is happening.
And of course, from my background, of course, I'm heavily an abstinence person.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree with the suggestion that this program lacks a strong abstinence influence in instruction?
The program the program first talks about abstinence and the importance of abstinence, and that is the only way to avoid pregnancies and avoid different diseases. It talks about that. That has to be a primary function of any program that is adopted. But then it goes beyond that to share per our standards, to share about different types of diseases that one can get, and how those diseases.
And I understand that, but if we talk about the diseases, of course, they could all be prevented by just plain abstinence.
That is correct.
So, did we look at any other programs that heavily lean toward abstinence, because that would even cure it in the role play. No, I don't do this disease. Abstinence would.
They did look at several programs. Actually, the curriculum department started out by looking at quite a few programs, Dr. Ogletree, but most of the programs were geared towards community center type activities, not school districts. And then, as I said, the LSHAC felt strongly that they wanted to look at an evidence-based type program. They also believed in the abstinence piece, but also wanted to do the Abstinence Plus, which is actually what this is. It's an Abstinence Plus program, and that's what our former program was also. It was an Abstinence Plus program. So we teach abstinence, but we also teach about all the different ways and opportunities to not get into situations to be able to contract different diseases and to avoid pregnancies.
Okay. Are you, there was also a suggestion too that the parents were not fully made aware of the opt-in. This is an opt-in program, not an opt-out, right?
That's right. You have to have the permission slip signed to participate in any way with the program.
Okay, so how would you answer the parents? Would you, I mean, there's quite a bit of discussion here about they didn't want their child to become aware of these things that are being taught, and how do you answer them on keeping their child away from this information?
How to keep their child away from hearing about
anal sex, oral sex, I was trying to figure out what does a 8th grader need to know about contraceptives? How do they keep them from that?
Well, Dr. O, let me ask you a question. And I'd like for you to think about when you were 12 and 13 and 14. And in my house, we didn't talk about oral sex, or we didn't talk about contraceptives, but the kids did. The kids went to movies, the kids watched movies, there were just different ways that you learned about different things. And sometimes you learn, many times, you learn the wrong information.
Yeah, you're right. You do learn some things. And, of course, back in my day, I want to date you, what I learned was primarily from my parents and from my church. And it was not from the school.
As I did too, but, kids talk. We had a parent who came to one of the parent meetings, and she wasn't quite sure about the program or what part to opt out. Opt in on, and so she decided she was going to go home and talk to her child, thinking her child didn't know anything about condoms. It was actually about condoms. And she came back and called us the next day because she was shocked that her son said, "Oh yeah, all my friends are buying condoms."
And two, I think that point was made too, that even if a parent opts out, their child will still hear what's going on in the class.
Kids hear all kinds of things going on in the classes, Dr. O, whether it's about sex or contraceptives or using drugs or smoking cigarettes. And so I know from my standpoint, it was my job as a parent to make sure that my children learned the morals and the values that I as a parent imposed on them. Because they were going to hear about everything, including sex and cigarettes and drugs and everything else.
And one last question, because I think Christine will probably cover all the rest of the things I want to ask. If a parent wanted to not have their child in any of this, what are the alternatives for that child during that class period?
If the parents opt in was to not have the child participate in any of the program, none of the program, that's definitely an option for the parent. We will provide a study guide for the content that is needed for the science test. The child will be in the library. It'll be like a study hall type period for the child.
All right. And one more question. This program assumes, and I'm sure that it is basically true, that our children know a whole lot more than what parents think they know. But this program assumes, does it not, a knowledge of every student, and it says, well, since they already know, let's talk about this.
Actually, not quite, Dr. Go, because if you recall when I shared that the program does kind of like a pre-test, and so the child will tell whether he knows nothing about sex, whether he's thinking about sex, whether he or she is having sex, and then that's the track that they will actually be exposed to.
And that was another thing that got, because I believe you gave the question, you're asking this 12-year-old child, are you interested in having sex? Was that the question?
Are you having sex?
Have you
thought
sex?
about having sex? Are you having sex?
Have you thought about it? And I'm trying to figure out why that line of questioning, isn't that very kind of suggestive of planning, rather than what is your general knowledge about the subject? The question is, you're asking what the child is interested in and what the child wants, and that seems to me kind of suggestive.
Okay.
My comment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. Ms. Hartley.
Thank you, and thank you for doing this report tonight. I know that it wasn't on the agenda, and y'all added it as an addendum. I have thought a lot about this program recently, and I have gone through and watched and played the game as a student would, and I did find, and it is interesting, you set your boundaries that not very much or extremely or in the middle, and it kind of sets the tone, and I know working through the STD part, the end result was the program shows the best way to avoid an STD is to wait. That was my result. That was my answer. This is all uncomfortable. I have 3 daughters. It's all an uncomfortable topic. But I did want to ask, were the 3 types of sex that we spoke about mentioned in the old curriculum? Like the oral, the anal, and was that, I'm wondering if it's just like definitions or if that was mentioned in the old curriculum.
They are mentioned in the old curriculum. I'm going to ask Mary, come up here for a second. I just want to make sure that I'm giving the correct answer for this one.
And I do understand that with Deb Hill having her father being so ill, it would have been great for her to be here, but we all understand. So thank you for y'all spending your time.
They were all present in the old curriculum.
They were all, okay, what?
All of that was in its full content present in the old curriculum.
Okay.
I think the issue here is the level of transparency.
Okay. Well, that's good of you to say. Thank you. I was thinking, it's unfortunate that we live in a very sexual world, and I know part of this program is a little more shocking because of the slang or because of things. But unfortunately, it's a world that we live in, and even the new, I can tell I'm a girl of moms, in the new One Direction song, they say tonight while we're young, let's get some. And we talked about we don't want that slang in the program, but it's in a song that's probably going to be #1 on the charts. And so if this is out in the world, as a parent, yes, I'm going to talk to my girls about our morals, but what about the kid who doesn't, and they hear the slang and they don't know what it's about? And here we are in a kind of a medical educational fashion, to be able to have teachers there with them. So that leads to my other question. What kind of training are the teachers having that will be with our students during this?
The teachers are being trained by our science coordinator, by Deb Hill. And we're actually providing some sub-days for them to come and get trained.
Well, I know whenever I did have a meeting with one of the developers, and we talked about that that our teacher manual is accessible or can be accessible, and that while there's strict guidelines that the teachers should go by, that things could be, I won't say added, but about the appropriateness of the words that the characters use and things like that, so that it's not just hey, all these words are okay. The teacher can talk to the kids about appropriateness and respect for others.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jackson.
Dr. Macias, does the school district decide to teach this in 7th grade, or are we directed to do this by the state of Texas?
We are directed to teach components of this curriculum. Depending, we get to choose, or with the recommendation of the SHAC, choosing what it is, but we are required to teach the different standards as I shared with you in the program.
And we're required by the state to teach this in 7th grade, is that correct?
Yes, we are, because the standards are in that grade level.
Is this curriculum, I know for our other curriculums, we have the opportunity to choose from curriculums that have been approved by the state of Texas. Has the state of Texas vetted this? Has the state approved this or not?
No, there is not a state-approved list of these curriculum.
Will questions on this material be included on any end-of-course exams?
No, because this is 7th grade, no.
Will it be included on the 8th grade end-of-course exams, or is it too early to know that?
It may, because the standards are there for science, so it may, and the standards are there for health as well.
Since this is computer-based, and since we include access to 7th grade, is it possible for students, and I'm sure no student would ever think about doing this, about fast-forwarding through the material to get from the beginning of the 7th grade lesson, like 1 or 2, and go all the way to lesson 10 or 11?
They could for that grade level, not for the 8th grade program.
So a student can move around all the material available to a particular grade, but they could not go from 7th grade up to 8th grade.
They cannot go up to 8th grade. They can certainly, just like, in most computer-type programs, you can watch it and then, answer whatever activities very quickly and then move on to the next one.
You mentioned that this, the one difference between this program and the program that we had last year, and we in part have some this year since it's not being done in 8th grade, was split. Are we devoting more instructional days to this program than what the old program was, or is it the same amount of instructional time?
It's about the same amount of instruction.
My children graduated from Cyfair schools quite a while ago. I recall when my son went through this that it was not on a co-ed basis. This is completely on a co-ed basis?
This is, the middle school is. The elementary is not, but the middle school is.
I do have a concern that we may be in a situation where we have good science but bad politics. Certainly our governor, with one of his recommendations, certainly viewed his recommendation as having good science but ultimately bad politics, and he revised his recommendation. How soon will this curriculum be implemented? How soon will the students start addressing the curriculum?
On the 28th of October.
And do we have any...
24th of October, I'm sorry.
Do we have any feedback as to percentage of students that are either opting in, or not students, but parents who are choosing for their students to either opt in or to opt out?
I do not have that at this time, Mr. Jackson, but I can certainly get that information.
I would also like to say thank you to both Bob and Mark for going ahead and adding this to the agenda. I know there are certain legal requirements and time requirements, so adding things to agendas are not, it is not done easily, and I appreciate the extra time and effort that it took to accomplish this.
Is that a tip of the hat?
You know, I would hate to ever tip my hat to anybody on the board or to the superintendent, but that was at least a touch of the brim. Is it possible, and it may not be, to find out from the members of the shack how many of them actually viewed all the material? And before you answer, let me explain my question. I went back and reviewed the presentation that was made. I reviewed it several times. The board voted unanimously to approve this. Based on the presentation, I have no doubt that we made the right choice. We did, in fact, rely upon the information that was presented. And the question is, for the shack, which is an integral part of the recommendation process, and I appreciate all the time and effort that the volunteers for shack did by coming to the meetings. Is there any way of our finding out how many of them viewed the entire program prior to recommendation?
We have a sign-in sheet for the membership that was there that day, Mr. Jackson. So, I mean, we could send out an email or survey to them to ask whether they viewed the videos.
I know that when we were given the presentation, you did in fact provide us with a link to the curriculum, and that was part of our board book. I didn't go through all of it. After the first 30 or 40 minutes, I decided I needed to spend my time elsewhere, and so I did. But I do think it's important for us to know how thoroughly the shack individuals vetted this process, because they're an integral part of it. And it may be too late to fully contact them. I don't know how you have it organized.
We have as I said, we have a sign-in sheet. We just have to match it to emails and addresses and making sure they're still in the district.
And I would also like to say thank you to all the parents who came out tonight. You are also volunteers. This is an important process. You are spending your time, as well as all the individuals that have contacted us by email and phone calls and stopped us in grocery stores. These are never easy questions, but we all are trying to do the right thing for our children. And it's also important for us to understand that the times have changed. I was one of the parents who objected strenuously to this district when Langham Creek High School first opened up and they had daycare facilities. I'm a little embarrassed at what I said, and I won't repeat it here tonight. I think I've matured in some of my thinking and appreciation that we have to educate all children, irrespective of their of where they are in the process of life. But my personal views on the matter were quite well known at the time. But we still have to educate children as best as we can, and it is a difficult process. And also, thank you, Dr. Macias, for your second presentation.
Mr. Ryan.
One gentleman mentioned, and this might be for you, Marnie, that during the board, not the community comment section, that he thought that we were violating the Texas Education Code. Could you address that since it was brought up, please?
I don't share that opinion.
So that would be a no.
As someone who practices education law, and I do not share that opinion.
Okay. And then on the, is the ability for a parent to opt their child out for any reason the same from last year to this year?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. And so if Don Ryan wants to have his son opt out, I just select the classes that he or she or my daughter would opt out of. And then the plan is that they would go to the library.
It would be like a study hall type time period.
Now, if the parent says, I want my child to opt out of the discussion on contraceptives, do we turn around and say, okay, your child's opting out, and hand them the material to take home?
The material is online for them. They can access it anytime they want. But the parent can choose to have the student sit for day 1, 4, and 5 and opt out of everything else.
So if, I just want to make, and I've gone through the site and gone through all this stuff. If my son is not participating in the program, and there's the section on oral sex, is he blocked from going into that section via the site?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There are different lessons that they can go to. And so you as a parent can select the day. Remember, this is all based on, every lesson is based on a theme. And so you as a parent can select the lessons, the days that you want him to opt in for or not opt in for. And then, but all of that's available for you at home to view. And if you gave your student the access to it, your student can see it all at home too.
Okay. Thank you.
So that is yes.
Dr. Macias, just and to follow up with that question, because a while ago you mentioned that at a 7th grade level, they can peruse through the entire program, and if they wanted to, they can go look at the last lesson. So tell me how that control works.
Within each day, there are lessons.
Okay.
Okay, like for example, as I mentioned, on day 8, lesson 6, that's as far as you need to know, you need to go to cover the science information that's going to be tested. So, but it's that day, that day, and then that day has all these lessons. Well, he could progress through the lessons, but it is for that day, that specific content that is for that day.
So he can't go to day 7. He has to just stay in the day that they're teaching. Is that what you're saying?
That is my understanding,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me ask you one question, and that is, well, it's probably a dual course question. Why do we teach this at this time, and we're teaching 8th grade at the end of that year? Why are we teaching that? Why wouldn't we teach this at the end of the 7th grade year?
Because this is where this content falls in the scope and sequence for science, and so it's the scope and sequence for science. So because it is content that we are to cover during the year.
And that's because they're going to be tested on the Texas Essential Skills.
That is correct. The content is specific to the science curriculum. The part that we've reserved for middle school, it is not specific to the science curriculum. I mean, that we've reserved for 8th grade, I'm sorry. It is not specific to the science curriculum. So this is where it falls.
So the 8th grade's not for the science curriculum. The 7th grade, which is human reproduction, is.
That piece that's taught the last 2 weeks, it's not specific to the science curriculum. But the piece for 7th grade, it is in the scope and sequence of when we teach the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills.
And if they opt in, those that don't send in their their kids will not be taught.
That is correct.
They have to send in, and I know we called it opt-out before, I'd heard that before, but it actually is, they have to fill in a form, and they have to say, my child is in this class.
That is correct.
So that's why we're saying the real terminology is opt-in. I know that people are thinking we're going different ways here, but I think the terminology we used before was given the option to opt out or not be a part of it, but they have to fill in a form to be included in it.
That is correct.
Okay. So, and I guess I'm going to ask this next question, and that is there a way that we can teach this later in the year? Or is that, tell me what the problems are with teaching it later in the year.
Well, the science standards, okay, fall within the scope and sequence. The health standards, we don't have a separate health class. So those standards are taught within the science class. That's why they're all embedded together in science, because we don't have a separate health class. Those standards that we are required to teach, we're teaching them through the science.
When you refer to scope and sequence, for those that are not education teachers, what does that mean, scope and sequence?
The scope and sequence means the plan, the layout of the curriculum, and when we cover all the different components to make sure that we do cover the entire curriculum.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Dr. Macias. I know it's been a very long discussion, and I appreciate your presentation. I, too, along with the rest of the board, thank you all for being here. If there's no more questions, I'm going to ask the board to take a little bitty break, because I need one, and then we will come back and continue the meeting. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. About 5 minutes.
We could lie to hustling for a bad.
Also, during the course of the committee of the whole meeting, it was a consensus of the board that the following action items be approved as submitted or amended. Action item 4A, the board will consider the awarding bids, contracts, and/or authorizing purchase orders for the following items: automotive lubricants, renewal year 2 of 3, demographic service, grease trap and line cleaning, hazardous waste disposal, renewal year 2 of 3, HVAC electric motors, HVAC refrigerants, renewal year 2 of 3, tree trimming and removal, renewal year 2 of 3. B, the board will consider approving the second reading additions, deletions, and revisions to District Policies 1 EFA Local Instructional Resources, Instructional Materials. For C, the board will consider approving and submitting to the Commissioner of Education a request for maximum class size waiver. D, the board will consider canceling the special call board meeting boundary workshop on October the 29th, 2012. E, the board will consider approving the tax refunds of $500 or greater for Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. F, the board will consider approving the minutes of the September 10th, 2012 regular meeting. On Thursday, the following non-consent items were placed on the consensus agenda. 5C, the board will consider approving on first reading the revisions to District Policy DHE Local Employee Standards of Conduct, Searches, and Alcohol Drug Testing Revise. D, the board will approve the process and the charge for establishing attendance boundaries. If any board member wishes to remove one or more of the items for further discussion, please do so at this time. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the consensus items as recommended or amended. Does anybody want to remove anything?
I would.
Mr. Ryan?
If we could remove 4A.
4A. The entire thing?
Well, then, isn't it all together?
It's all together. Okay. So we're going to vote on each one of those independently? Okay.
No, we'll vote as a whole.
As a whole, okay.
Vote as a whole.
Okay. All right. I'm okay with it. 4A, and that is, we're going to remove that. We need a motion, right? Motion?
I move that we approve the consensus agenda except for 4A.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All approve? All in favor? Raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Okay. Then we will go back to item 4A. The board will consider awarding bids and contracts and/or authorizing purchase orders for the following items. The one, automotive lubricants, renewal year 2 of 3, demographic services, grease trap and line cleaning, hazardous waste disposal, renewal year 2 of 3, HVAC electric motors, HVAC refrigerants, renewal year 2 of 3, tree trimming and removal, renewal year 2 of 3. We have any questions? Mr. Ryan?
Stuart, and I think during the citizen participation that we had the question come up tonight on 4A from Mr. Wilson. And I do think he made a really good statement when he said that we need to probably be a little bit more open and transparent when we have something that on the surface looks like it doesn't pass the smell test. Could you go over the difference between, I guess, just 1 and 2 a little bit, and why we're looking or proposing that we spend that much more money than what the second place vendor is saying?
Sure, and I would also like to respond to another comment that Mr. Wilson made during the citizens' participation part of the agenda tonight. And then any other further questions, I may ask Marty Edwards if he would step forward to help me with these, any questions that you might have. But first of all, Mr. Wilson recommended that we resend out all of the RFPs again to the firms so that they had an opportunity to respond to all areas of the scope of services. For your information, the detailed scope of services that we are requiring were clearly identified in the RFP document that was sent out, and to which all of those firms responded. Each of the firms had the opportunity to respond to that scope of services equally if they were qualified to provide those services. And I will get to your second part of the question about comparing the second highest proposer, but I just want to make a comment to say that the district is seeking a consultant to provide detailed, comprehensive, long-term, and long-range enrollment and planning projections that also include enrollment projections, mapping, geocoding, long-range planning for site purchases, the build-out analysis of the school district itself, as well as the school capabilities and the development of future attendance boundaries that are available, and also to be available to the board to present their findings and their reports on an ongoing basis to the Board of Trustees as well as to administration. Of the 8 proposals that we received, 5 are located out of state, and 1 respondent is a software sales only, and 2 have credible school district experience in Harris County. Population and Survey Analyst, PASA, who is the recommended consultant, is the only consultant that responded that has the extensive school district experience in this area, and the only one that can offer all of the comprehensive services that we are requiring in our RFP. As far as the second-ranked proposer that was mentioned, that firm is located in Ohio and is primarily a facilities planner. They have limited experience in Texas, and they are not readily available to be present at the board and make presentations to the board. In addition, it's Texas clientele that were referenced, the references were not favorable for that company. So does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson.
I did, in fact, spend approximately 30 minutes and trying to respond to observations from many people that I reduced the amount of time that I consumed during board meetings. I'm trying to ask more of my questions offline. I will go through all the questions that I asked once before. It's kind of odd. As a stutterer, it's easier for me to read questions after I've typed them, and so I know which questions I have asked. So if you've already have answered these, don't worry about it. Question 1. This proposal appears to be for professional services. I know from my mud board days that we could not ask certain groups to bid a proposal, such as attorneys and CPAs. For these groups, we needed to make a request for qualifications. How do the lawyers interpret the law as it pertains to these types of consultants? And that may be a question for our counsel if she was.
Yeah, I would ask our general counsel for help on that issue.
Well, generally, is the question about how do you define a professional service, or why did we do an RFQ?
No, we did an RFP, and my question is, why did we not do an RFQ?
Well, for one, Stuart and I talked about, and Dr. Henry talked about this, and we talked about, did it meet the definition of a professional service? And we even, kind of looked at the TEA guidelines and the TASBO, Texas Association of School Business Officers guidelines. And arguably, it could have been determined to be a professional service. My recommendation to the superintendent and to our CFO was that we do some sort of procurement, an RFQ or an RFP, and I base that on, it's a 3-part standard. I won't go into it. I know Don Ryan dozes off when I get into my long-winded explanations, but essentially the third element that talks about it being a discipline that is a specialized attainment of skill and schooling is required. I just questioned whether or not it squarely fell into that. I tend to read the professional services exception narrowly as opposed to broadly. And also we thought we would, see what was out there. And that was my recommendation to the superintendent, and he accepted it.
Thank you. Your answer was in much more detail than Stuart's. I think he said that we just didn't need to.
Stuart's the assistant general counsel.
Right. I'm the assistant general counsel, yes. Yeah.
Was this work handled in-house before, or have we hired outside consultants for this scope of work?
I'm going to ask Marty to help me with the rest of the questions, and I will be certain to chime in when I think I know something. So,
please feel free to do that, Stuart, if you need to do that. This was handled in-house before, not to the extent that we are asking this firm to do, but we did in previous years use Dr. Forquin to do our demographic studies and our projections. As most of you, I'm sure, know, Dr. Forquin has retired. However, during the time when he was here, we did contract out a lot of the work that we're asking this group to do, the mapping and the GIS services. We were not able to do in-house because we did not have the software, the capacity to do that, and John couldn't do that. So we did have Dr. Forquin do projections. He did a lot of boundary zone proposals, but there were a lot of other parts of this type of service that John could not provide. But we did do it in-house before.
And I would add that including Dr. Forquin's salary as well as other fees that we were paying to the other third parties, that we paid about $160,000 a year for these services.
Question 3, if we handled this in-house and the person in charge of the process retired, did a prior board abolish the position as a matter of budget cutting?
I believe the answer to that is no. I don't believe that was part of a budget cut.
It was not necessarily a budget cut. When he retired, the position was eliminated, but it was not part of the budget cutting or the budget reduction program.
So we no longer have that position?
We do not, no.
3A, why can't we just hire someone and do this work in-house?
And I think Stuart had kind of already touched on this before, and I had previously stated, if you look at the salary that we were paying Dr. Forquin plus the services that we were having to contract out for, it actually, I think, ranged a little closer to the $175,000 range in what we were previously paying when John was here for his salary, his benefits, and for the services that we contracted. If we were to do everything and we've never done the build out that we're asking these people to do, these groups to do, and go into detail like this company is able to do, because we didn't have the manpower to do that. We would have to hire additional staff beside a demographer, have additional software that we would have to have access to, additional computers. There are a lot of different materials that we would need to provide that demographer, which is going to drive up that cost, which it could actually be more than what we're looking at with hiring an outside demographer to do everything that they can do.
You know, Stuart, if your answers to me were as long as everybody else's, I would stop asking quite as many questions. Question number 4, it's already been answered. Why is it appropriate that we should use the services of PASA out of College Station?
Well, I think PASA is considered the foremost demographer in this area, and they have the extensive experience that we're looking for, and they've been in this area. They've been doing demographic services for school districts in this area for many, many years. We have been able to view examples of their reports, and they are very, very comprehensive, and it's exactly what we're looking for and what we're needing in our district.
And if I can add to that, Tom, just if I can extend Stewart's answer for him, PASA does things that a lot of other demographers do not do. It's almost comparing apples to oranges. Most demographers use trend data and look at past histories, employment data, housing trends, current data that the school district is able to provide them, and then project off of that data. PASA goes further than that. They actually interview property owners, every parcel of land that's within the district that is more than 5 acres. They outline that property, and they contact the property owners, and they find out what the future build out is going to be in that, or is there going to be a build out, what the time frame is looking at for a sale of that property. They contact every apartment complex, because apartment complexes tend to turn over, to see what impact that's going to have on enrollments. They contact all the brokers and real estate agents in our area to find out what their projections are. They contact all the private schools in our area to talk to them about their enrollments or projected growth. They look at floodplains, areas in our district. Especially out in our western end, there's a lot of land that we have that's currently vacant that will never be built out because it's in a floodplain, or it has oil and gas pipelines on it, and so it has large easements. PASA eliminates that property as future growth areas, where most demographers just take your unused acreage and divide by a set amount that is determined by how many acres you have and how many students are currently enrolled in those areas to determine future growth. So they're much more detailed, they're much more precise. They actually send people to our properties to drive our neighborhoods, to look at current build-outs, how many lots are available, what's the construction rate in those neighborhoods. And the big thing about this company compared to the second company that we chose, this is a company out of College Station, Texas, compared to Dublin, Ohio. Our project team would be made up of 8 members. Of those 8 members, 3 of them have doctor's degrees. The lead person in that has actually taught demography at Texas A&M University. We have a lawyer who's currently would be on our staff or on our project team, 1 other person with a master's degree, and 3 people with bachelor's degrees. The second place company would have 5 people on our team. 3 of them would be located in Ohio, and 2 in Texas, 1 in San Antonio, and I believe the other one is somewhere north of the Woodlands, the Conroe area. And all 5 have bachelor's degrees. So the expertise is much higher. The years of experience is much more in depth with the PASA compared to the second group. And the level the quality of work is just much higher.
Can we save money if we piecemeal the work? For example, there were some with lower bids. Can we use the cheaper folks to come in and do some of the work, and then save money by having the more expensive talent do that requires a higher degree of expertise and skill?
Stuart, is that one you want to answer?
No, I don't believe that we would. I think that the cost would be higher. In addition, I really think that it would be impossible to piecemeal that out and have any sort of meaningful report, because each portion of the scope of work is dependent on other portions of the work. And so when you have different companies doing different things in different scope of work, and it would be very, very difficult to kind of pull that together and have any kind of meaningful report all in all.
Yeah, and I think to do the long-range projection, you're going to have a lot of duplication of work if you try to piecemeal that out. And the quality of work might not be the same with all your companies that you're dealing with, and so it would be very difficult to piecemeal it out.
Number 6, I looked at the websites of the top 2 firms. I have the following questions. It was pretty easy for PASA because they had pictures of people. I did not recognize any of my cousins or sisters or brothers. Is it possible that there are related parties that exist between either of the top 2 bids and not just members of the board, but members of the evaluation committee?
I'm not aware of any.
I'm not aware of any either.
The board would have to speak for themselves if they have a relative that works for either one of those firms, but I am not aware of any relation with either one of those companies.
6B, as I often do, I always ask the same question twice, a little differently. You don't have to answer it the second time.
Okay.
6B was, how would you differentiate between the 2 firms? Number 7, there's a considerable difference in the bid amounts. Is there a difference in the amount or anticipated quality of the work? Don Ryan asked that. I asked it, and y'all have answered it. Is there anything that you would care to add to it that you haven't already said?
I think we've already answered that question about the quality of work and the methodology that it's used, but the 2 different types of methodology, there's definitely a difference in the quality of work. Not to say that the second company is not a very legitimate firm, but there's issues that we would have to deal with, location, and plus the other things that we talked about, that there are things extra that PASA could provide us. One of the other things that PASA can provide us that can't be provided by the second firm is, well, I mentioned the 8 people that are on the team. If we have questions and we need to sit down with them and have them bring maps and have us talk about different projections of school sites or boundary changes or whatever we're going to have to do, those top people that I mentioned will come to Cypress-Fairbanks free of charge. It's a turnkey service. There's no limit on the number of times they will come to visit us. And so we have access to their very top people, the people who are teaching demography, to come to us, to talk to us, where on the other side, the people who are the top people in the other company are in Dublin, Ohio. They didn't express interest in getting on an airplane and flying down whenever we wanted to talk to them. So that is another critical difference between the 2.
Question 8, can we rebid the work and request everyone to sharpen their pencil?
And I think Stuart addressed it a little bit. I did speak after our committee met and we had a number 1 candidate. I did call them and ask them that exact question. You know, is there any way we can reduce our cost, receive some additional services? And basically, their reply was, we've given you our best price that we can give you. We are available free of charge, and that does mean a lot. For us to come down to visit in your building whenever you want. We're not going to charge you travel expenses as some other firms would do. But they really could not justify lowering their rate. But we did ask that question and did ask them if they would consider that.
Also, if I heard your question right, you asked if we could request everyone to sharpen their pencil, and I think the evaluation committee determined that the other 7 responders to the RFP could not provide the scope of work that we were requiring, and so asking them to sharpen their pencil really would serve no useful purpose.
I do have one question that I didn't ask before.
Okay.
Oh, my word. It's the top 10 for you, Tom.
Is that written?
You mentioned use of the GIS software. If we go with these folks, and do we have access to that software? And I have some awareness of the software because MUD districts rely upon it as well. And the concept is, once you put the data in, you can then update the data, and you should be able to derive reports at a much lower cost on a going forth basis. So the question is, who owns that data? Do we or do they? Or do we know?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. But to go along with that, I'm sure we own that data. But they have expressed the interest, or not interest, they have expressed that they are willing to give us reports upon request. So if we have a particular type of report that we need created for us, they will create those reports. The book that they provided, I wish I would have brought it tonight. We actually got 2 examples that they had done before. One was for Conroe ISD, and the other was for Katy ISD. They're both clients of PASA. I'm not sure what else we could ask them that was not in that report. It was very, very extensive. The book literally is this thick. It's very, very detailed, very extensive, and it is truly a turnkey type of company. They do everything that we would require them to do.
Very good. The other questions I have are not particularly germane to the decision-making process, and I'll ask those offline. Okay. Thank you.
Don, Ryan? You have one?
You said John.
Oh, I thought you were, okay. Dr. Ogletree.
Okay, and I asked Elder Knight, and thank you for providing the information on what we generally were paying Dr. Forkman and our outside consultants. I asked a question about the term, the length of this agreement with this demographer. Is it a one-year deal, or how long are we engaging them for? And I believe Teresa answered that.
I may have misunderstood your question. What I was saying was the amount of time that it would take them to provide the information to us, so that's why we were not recommending using them for the attendance boundary for elementary 53. But it's a yearly contract.
It's a yearly contract. It's a one-year contract that is renewable each year.
Okay. Right.
But for 53, we will not use them, but
That's
for
correct.
the following 2 schools, we will.
That's exactly right.
54.
They'll start work for us immediately, because it's going to take that amount of time in order to begin the collection of the data and information. But as far as being involved in any attendance boundary process, that will be next year for the opening of elementary 54 and middle school 18.
But beyond that, we still have elementaries 55, 56, 57, as well as middle school 19, and high schools number 11 and number 12 over the next few years that we're going to have to consider that would require some significant changes to the boundaries.
Right.
And another point of that, and I should have mentioned this with Tom, about cost. When I called PASA and talked to them, one of the things that I did ask them is, do you have to do all of the services every year? Because they do break their services down into different pieces. And sometimes the long-range study might not have to be done every year. So there's a possibility of some price reduction in future years where it's not necessary to do parts of that study. So the cost could go down some because they had already provided that information the previous year.
One other item that we had not mentioned is that, of course, part of the scope of services is the enrollment projections and the projection out for the out years. And just wanted to say and remind you that it's very critical that those enrollment projections are as accurate as they can be, because that's the basis for which we receive our state revenue. And as we budget each year and develop the budgets, then we will be relying on hopefully very, very accurate enrollment projections from this firm. So that's a very critical part of the scope of services that we're expecting.
Mr. Morris?
Well, it seems to me that, what you're pointing out here about how often we're going to use this service, don't you think that it'd be in our best interest to recreate that position that you elected to not fill?
Well, as Mr. Edwards mentioned, by recreating the position would ultimately probably cost us more than the contract with PASA. We would have to hire somebody. We currently do not have the expertise nor the manpower to be able to do these types of services that PASA is going to be able to provide, as well as hiring a staff, providing or purchasing the required software and computer equipment that he also mentioned. So, I think that there's value in obtaining a third-party look at all of the needs that we have regarding our facilities planning and enrollment.
What was Dr. Forkland, what did he use? He's not dead or anything, is he?
Well, he's not here.
Can reach out to him and get some help?
Well, again, he did not have the expertise to do everything that we're needing to do in the future that we're asking PASA to do. Dr. Forkman was primarily working on enrollment projections, and that's just one small part of the scope of services.
Well, he
and I think Mr. Edwards talked about the impact of Dr. Forkman's leaving and what we could provide or what he could provide and the services that we were able to provide in the past while he was here, and it is not the type of services that we want to or that we desire on a go-forward basis.
So when we did the boundary changes in the elementaries, in the middle, he did them, right?
He did.
Okay, thank you.
We also had contracted services that he used to help him do that.
That was Rick Stein, wasn't it, was he the demographer that came in and helped?
Dr. Dennis Harner as well, but I do think Dr. Stein helped us. You're remembering correctly.
Okay.
Just to kind of finish up here, the price that we see then is going to carry us through another elementary, a junior high, and is that as far as that goes, or is that also including some long-range planning for the additional schools you mentioned that will give us a chance to really take a look at where we can save money, where we can build, where we don't need to build?
Mm-hmm. The price that you're looking at does include long-range planning, a 10-year projection for all schools. It also provides some build-out projections of how many schools we will need when the property is completely built out. So it includes not only projections for the following year and for the schools that Stuart mentioned, but it includes the entire build-out of the district. So if all that property out on the west end of the district was completely built out, how many schools would we need? What are our projections of sites that would we need? Where would those sites need to be located? And that's a very important piece to bring up. And Roy Mike can speak about it a little more, but that's one of their strengths, is looking at properties and lands and projecting where those schools are going to need to be built in the future, long-range projections, even if it's more than 10 years. So if you buy a site in a property that you really can't access properly or can't use, there's a lot of cost involved in that, of buying it in the wrong site. So there's a lot of factors that you can factor in on the cost to look at, but we do feel this is the best value for what we need.
Marty, do they also take a look at our existing schools and the enrollment and kind of what they see is going to be happening there too?
They look at existing schools and capacities. They also provide services in the event that, say, we have our one end of our district is an older community district, and those schools begin to decline in enrollment compared to the schools on the western end of the district. And they've done this for Frisco, and they've done this, not Frisco, I think they were named some other schools, Dallas ISD and some other schools around Dallas, that they had looked at where how they could redo boundaries and try to keep feeder patterns as clean as they could. So they provide all those services as part of that package of how can we go in and look at utilizing the facilities that we currently have to prevent us from having to build additional facilities that we really possibly may not need if we could utilize those facilities effectively.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you very much. So the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and/or authorizing purchase orders for the following items: automotive lubricants, renewal, year 2 of 3, demographic services, grease trap and line cleaning, hazardous waste disposal, renewal, year 2 of 3, HVAC electric motors, HVAC refrigerants, renewal, year 2 of 3, tree trimming and removal, renewal, year 2 of 3. Can I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that the board award bids and contracts and/or authorize purchase orders as recommended.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Ms. Woodall seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? One opposed. Moving along. The board will consider the 2012 tax rate resolution to support the 2012-2013 budget, A, 2012 maintenance and operation tax rate, and B, 2012 debt service tax rate. Presenter is Stuart Snow and Anita Henry. You presented Thursday, did you not, right?
Yes, sir. I
All right.
made a
Do we have any
Yes, I made a
questions from the
presentation
board?
Thursday.
Anybody? Mr. Jackson.
This is my 23rd year of sitting through one of these, and I always have a standard set of questions that I always ask. I think it's instructive, at least, to remind myself where we are in the process. The following homestead exemptions, it's my understanding, are currently in effect. State mandated all homesteads, 15,000. State mandated age 65 or older, 10,000. State mandated disabled, 10,000. Local option age 65 or older, 15,000. Local option disabled, 15,000. Local option percentage, all homesteads, 20%. The question that I have for you is, have we voted on these additional homestead exemptions for the current year? And if so, when did we do it?
Mr. Jackson, I took a resolution to the board for your consideration for approval at the June 28th, 2012 meeting.
And did we approve that resolution?
Yes, sir. 6 trustees out of 7 voted to keep all of the exemptions, including the 20% optional homestead exemption.
And which 6 board members voted in favor?
Well, you did, Mr. Ryan did, Mr. President Covey did, Ms. Woodall did, Mr. Ogletree, and Ms. Hartley. Mr. Morris was absent.
And voting on exemptions is something we do every year, isn't it?
That's correct.
Something else that I asked you at that meeting, when we vote additional homestead exemptions, we protect homeowners, but isn't it also true that we shift the tax burden from rooftops to businesses with taxable property?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Mr. Morris?
You said I was absent at that meeting, and I remember making a motion to leave the homestead exemption as it was.
No, sir. You were absent at the June 28th meeting.
All right, I don't remember.
Mr. Ryan?
Stuart, you gave us a debt per ADA report that Thursday night you
Yes.
kind of mentioned, and it's got us pretty far down the list, and we compared to I think Tomball's the highest. A lot of our neighboring districts. The size of the district for this, and tell me if this is correct, this statement, the size of our district compared to the size of a Tomball or a smaller district is irrelevant, because we're talking about pure ADA. on this. Is that statement correct?
That's correct. The size of the district has no relevance really in this analysis for this purpose. What we were trying to do is compare, and that's why the analysis was made on a comparison was made on a per ADA basis, because it reflects, well, that's the most relevant, but it reflects the district's capital needs, whether it be building new schools to accommodate student enrollment growth, or whether it be renovating or replacing old schools. But the size of the district really has no relevance in this, for this comparison.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Woodall, did you have something?
Yes, Stuart. Whenever we're talking about taxes, and I just always like to touch on the optional homestead exemption and ask you now if it, with the funding formulas that we are using right now, is there any benefit to the district to consider taking away or reducing the optional homestead exemption?
Well, that's obviously a decision of the board. It's an annual decision that we really have to analyze that on a yearly basis, and where the legislature is and what the funding system is like. But to give you an example, the elimination of the optional homestead exemption would provide, at the current property values, about $38 million of operating revenue and about $15 million of revenue to devote to the INS tax rate to pay for the principal and interest on our bonds. Now, that $15 million of additional revenue on the INS side would allow the district then to reduce the tax rate by 3 to 4 cents, maybe even 4 to 5 cents, depending upon the amount. There's benefit to looking at that each year, and that's why we bring that resolution to you each year, so that it makes you aware of that, and by law and by the tax code, you're required to either approve that or make any changes on an annual basis prior to July 1st of each year.
Now, I know over the last several years, there wasn't an advantage to taking it away from our community, because the state would be receiving most of the money. Is that correct?
Under the prior school finance system, that is correct. With Senate Bill 1, changes were made to the school finance system that is moving away from a hold harmless or a target revenue type of system, transitioning away from that and putting districts more on a formula-based system. So it is possible. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen with the legislature and school finance over the next several years, but it's still possible that the district would not benefit on the operating side. Certainly on the debt service side, they would benefit, because that's not part of the school finance system that would, or the Robin Hood system, as you may think about it. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. And in weighing, because of course you say now we don't know what's going to be happening in the legislature, but so at this time you would still say that we should...
I think we should look at it each year
Okay.
in consideration of the current funding system and how that might benefit the school district and where we are with our budget and the needs of the school district, yes.
And I appreciate your diligence in asking the board for that, because as I will no longer be here after next month, I do want to make sure that our kids are able to continue to excel, and we are still able to offer them a quality education. So I appreciate it. Tabs on you, Stuart.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Dr. O, do you have something? No? Okay. Christine? Mr. Ryan?
You ready for a motion?
Oh, well, I had one thing to say, because I think I did. Yeah, okay. Basically, you told us on Thursday night what the implication was on the 2 cent based on a $100,000 home and a $200,000 home. Could you reiterate that for anybody that doesn't watch Thursday night, but they watch tonight's meeting?
Certainly. What I said was the 2-cent tax increase on the INS side, the debt service side, the impact on a home valued at $100,000 is $13 for the year annually. What I didn't give a comparison of the home valued at $200,000, but what I used was in Cy-Fair, the average home value is about $152,000. And so the impact on that home at that value is, if I recall, $21 per year.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the raise in the tax is basically on the interest and sinking tax rate, which only applies to our buildings. And what we're doing, it has nothing to do with maintenance and operation and our teacher salaries.
That's correct, but let me clarify, it's not our buildings, it's the principal and interest on the bonds that we've sold to construct and renovate those buildings.
Right.
Yes.
But that has nothing to do with the teacher salary.
Does not.
Okay. Can I have a motion, please? Oh, I'm sorry, John.
We are doing this double take. I asked on Thursday nights, and for the viewers and for those who think that we don't ask questions, that in the past few board meetings, we have voted to sell bonds and have experienced some great savings, millions of dollars in savings. And the question I asked was, if we are saving money by selling bonds, why do we need this tax?
And that's a great question. We have, through refundings of previously issued bonds, generated significant savings over the life of those bonds. And that has helped to mitigate the impact of this 2-cent tax increase. In other words, it may have been much higher without the benefit of those savings through the refundings. However, because of a property value decline last year and actually the year before that even, as well as a reduction in the funding from the state in the existing debt allotment, which we get to help offset and pay for our interest and principal on our debt. Because of the decline in values and the decline in the funding for the EDA program, that has caused us to actually have propose an increase in the INS tax rate. This is the first increase in the INS tax rate over the last 2 years. We did not ask for a tax increase last year nor the year before, although we probably should have. And we've been trying to hold down that tax rate as long as we could. But because of those declines in values and the funding, then we just needed to be able to provide that increase this year.
Any further questions? May I have a motion?
I move that the board adopt the 2012 tax rate resolution to support the 2012-2013 budget, 2012 maintenance and operations tax rate, and 2012 debt service tax rate.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Ogletree, thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand. All unanimous. Thank you. The board will consider authorizing the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute an interlocal agreement and related documents with the Clay Road Municipal Utility District for the donation and installation of playground equipment at M. Robinson Elementary School. Roy Sprague, could you come up and I know that the gentleman that were with the Clay Road Municipal Utility District had to leave, and could you just tell us what the value is and what they're going to be doing?
Be glad to. We had a representative who was the secretary for Clay Road Municipal Mud District present, but she had to go be a parent and take care of her kids, so she apologized for having to leave. But we also have Kathy Dixon in the audience, the principal of M. Robinson. I'd like to at least recognize her as well for being here and helping promote this partnership that we have with the Mud District. And the value of the donation by the Mud is $10,000 to support additional and upgraded playground equipment.
Well, it's certainly appreciated, so we appreciate that. May I have a motion, please?
Go ahead.
No, I'm not in place, I'm sorry.
I move that the board authorizes the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute an interlocal agreement and related documents with the Clay Road Municipal Utility District for the donation and installation of playground equipment at M. Robinson Elementary School.
Second.
All right, second. Thank you, Ms. Hartley. All in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Thank you. C, the board will consider, I'm sorry, we did that. I'm moving on. The board will consider a Level 3 transfer appeal of a Level 2 decision made by the Transfer Review Committee. Presented was Deborah Stewart and Ife Ogumake.
He did it.
I've been working on it, Ife.
For almost a week.
A week. Okay. Okay. Do we have any questions concerning this?
Mr.
Mr.
President.
Jackson, I'm sorry. Mr. Jackson?
I would just like to make a comment. Often as board members, we have to make a decision that goes against what our personal thoughts are in the matter. We have to make the decision as a board based upon evidence that has been presented as opposed to what our feelings on the matter might well be. And although in this case, I don't know that it matters to explain the decision-making process, I just thought it was necessary to make that observation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Morris?
I agree with Tom. I think I don't like the way I'm gonna have to vote on this, but I think it'll be in their best interest to get past this and start the process again and do it right. And I think that's where this thing failed. That the approach they took initially wasn't what they should have done. If they had, we probably wouldn't have been here.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Anybody else? Ms. Hartley?
I just wanted to agree with Mr. Jackson and say that, it is true that we go by the evidence given to us at that time and the evidence that was given to Level 1 and Level 2. And even though, we are human and have feelings, we have to go on the evidence. So, thank you.
Anybody else? May I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that the board uphold the decision made at Level 2 by the administration.
Second. A second. Mr. Ryan, all in favor? Raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Thank you. Last, the board will review and consider adoption of the revised board operating guidelines outlining the duties of a public officer. The board met in a closed session the last 2 months, and we have revised the board operating procedures. I don't think there needs to be a lot of discussion because we've discussed that, but I will tell the listening audience that as soon as we accept this, if it's accepted, this will go on the website and you will be able to review it and take a look at it. I am very proud of the document, as I am proud of this board for working on it and making it happen. So, may I have a motion? Dr. Ogletree?
Mr. President, I wanted to say thank you for your leadership in getting these guidelines put together for us, much needed, long awaited, and thank Marnie for her assistance, and I'll move the acceptance of these guidelines for our board.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. May I have a second? Mr. Morris, second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Marnie, thank you. Item 6A has been moved to the November 12th board meeting. We will now go on to the superintendent's briefing portion of the agenda. Dr. Henry will make comments and provide information on the following topics.
And I'm going to read this as fast as a Southern boy can read them. I would like to remind the board and community sponsors about our Salute to the Stars Gala on Thursday, October 8th at the Berry Center. The gala is sponsored by the Cy-Fair Education Foundation and is underwritten by the Cy-Fair Credit Union, Cy-Fair Medical Center Hospital, IBI Architects, and Methodist Willowbrook Hospital to honor our 2011 Spotlight teachers representing each of our campuses. In addition to honoring outstanding teachers, this event also raises funds for student scholarships and staff development grants for teachers. Our Heart Walk. The Northwest Harris County Heart Walk will be Saturday, November 3rd. Last year, CFISD had over 730 participants and raised over $16,800. The 3-mile walk will start at Lone Star College Cyfair and raises funds for the American Heart Association. Most of our campuses and support facilities have a team that any staff, student, or community member can join. CFISD will celebrate Red Ribbon Week, October 23rd through 31st. The national campaign is designed to encourage healthy, drug-free, and violence-free lifestyles among youth. We ask parents to take special time this week to talk to their children about the dangers of drugs and alcohol. Parents, students, and staff are invited to attend the district's 21st Annual Health Organization of Physical Educators, or HOPE, Fun Run, which will be held on Saturday, October 20th at the Langham Creek High School track. Last year, more than 2,000 students, staff, and community members participated in the event in an effort to help raise funds to provide scholarships for graduating seniors planning to pursue degrees in health education, physical education, recreation, or dance. Contact your campus or our elementary PE department to sign up. I want to remind employees and community members that they will have the privilege to exercise one of their greatest rights, voting on November 6th for CFISD Board Trustee positions 3 and 4. Early voting dates are October 22nd through November 2nd. The early voting locations within Cyfair ISD are Lone Star College, Cypress Top Park, Tomball Public Works Building, Franz Road Storefront, Jersey Village City Hall, Bear Creek Park Community Center, Champion Forest Baptist Church. A candidate forum is scheduled for October 16th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Berry Center. This forum is a formal question and answer session for our candidates in front of an audience of interested voters. If you cannot attend in person, the event will be aired live on CFTV Comcast Channel 16 and can also be viewed live online on our website. For more information on polling sites on Election Day, go to www.harrisvotes.org. Governor Perry has proclaimed October 10th as Texas Education Human Resources Day to honor our HR staff, who ensure our schools are staffed with high-quality employees. We want to recognize their important contribution to hiring individuals who embody our Cyfair principles and values. I'd like to remind the community that Monday, October 29th is a student holiday, a professional work day for our teachers, and a regular work day for our administration. Parent-teacher conferences will be scheduled for this date for our elementary students. Back to you, Mr. Covey.
Well, also, you might make note that October the 10th is college night at the Berry Center. So if you have juniors and seniors, you probably know about that, but you probably ought to go. And this meeting is adjourned. Woo.